Hey, welcome back, fam. You are back for another episode of the Weekly Roundup. I'm your host, as always, Steve Rochelle, being joined by my good friend over here, Mr. Zach Barr. Zach, how are we doing this evening? Heard you got a little wet on the way to the show today.
A little wet mixed with a little bit of sweat. We had a rain delay at my baseball tournament, and I almost didn't get here. We had to bring in a replacement umpire. I was like, guys, I got to be out of here at 3:30. We still had one inning to play, and we had to bring somebody else onto the field because it's just the way it is. I got to come home and do this. I got to be here for the people, Steven. I got to be here for the people.
we have to be here for the people. We got a fun one lined up today. We're gonna be talking. Obviously, we got to spit some venom about this Eagles team. Dive into a few things. Talk about the Browns matchup that we got going on this weekend because they're still playing apparently. We're gonna talk the Sixers draft, trade moves. Gauge how everyone's feeling about that. We're also gonna be joined by boxing legend, 5-time world champion Vinny Paz is going to be joining us. We'll talk a little bit of boxing with him. We'll talk a little bit. We'll talk a little of the preview of this Mike Tyson Roy Jones fight, and we're also going to be joined by former Bellator star and hopefully be able to break some news for you guys here. But we're going to be joined by Mike Richman. Hopefully,
we got some breaking news talk, Steven. We might have some breaking news talk. Alert the presses.
I don't know. We'll see. I'll get the message either before or whatever. We'll see if I'm able to either spill the beans or I'll have to hold it and let management and the promotion do it. But apparently Mike has a fight lined up and he's getting ready to go here. So, but with that being said, let's kind of get things moving along here. And we are brought to you by our doc, make him your doc, Dr. Paul Vidal, specialized physical therapy. LLC, Burlington, Chandler Hill, Princeton locations. Find them on the web that specialized for physical therapy.com. And with all that, man, I know we're going to want to get into spitting this venom about this team here. And we're brought to you by, who's that? Is that our good friends, Mr. over there at Ambuck Services, AMBUCK Services. That's 20. Tell them A2D sent you. That's 20% off of your gutter guards. Got you covered. Anything around your house. And that's ambuckservices.com. And the question is, will Jeffrey Lurie have to be forced to have some serious dismantling of this team if this season's a failure, if we continue to go south? Agree, disagree? Mr. Burr, how are you feeling about that?
Well, this question is very interesting because obviously it's worded in a way where it says, do you think Jeffrey Lurie or will Jeffrey, how's it worded again? Give me the wording. Will Jeffrey Lurie? I want to make sure I have the wording correctly because it's very important to make sure that we have the proper understanding of this question. It's will Jeffrey Lurie be forced to clean house if the Eagles were to continue
if it's a failure, Jeffrey Lurie, he needs to clean house.
He needs to clean house. See, to me, I mean, I feel like I'm going to feel a little bit differently than how Jeffrey Lurie would feel because I'm going to, as we've talked about over the past couple weeks, it comes down to two things. What's your definition of a failure? And then,
whether or not Jeffrey Lurie is going to have the ball. If we're looking at the record now, it's already, you're pushing the failure line with it, especially with what we got coming down the line. Things you've seen, things you've heard, the fact that you let a guy walk this offseason and you just brought him back for your practice squad. Obviously, you're having sellers of remorse, and you made a mistake there for some reason. When you sat there and told us for the better part of the season.
That's pretty much Howie admitting whoops.
Is that a Howie whoops or is that a Doug whoops?
Well, that one for me is at least going on Howie because he's the one. To my knowledge, I don't know of any. I haven't heard of anything like saying that Doug Peterson told Howie, "Hey, I think we're good at the running back position. We don't need to sign something." To me, maybe it was a mutual thing, but at the very least, that's Howie's job. Is to, try to go out and get guys that are, going to help weaknesses on this football team. And we clearly, all of us, talked about, Miles Sanders is good. He's going to be my lead back. Yeah, he's my every down back. But I need somebody behind him because Corey Clement and Boston Scott just aren't the answer. And we got, oh, no, we like our running back room. Oh, okay, great. Well, you like it so much that 9 weeks into the year, you're calling up, we were talking about some boxing and all the boxing we're going to talk later. We're calling up the real deal.
We're seeing agree.
We're calling up with a clean house if we miss the playoffs. We'll get into that in a minute.
We'll break that aspect down in a second. But
we're bringing up the real deal Holyfield's kid. Like that's he just got brought up off the practice squad. I mean, listen, I love the real deal Holyfield, Evander, real deal Holyfield, one of the best nicknames in sports. But come on, like what? I'm not gonna get excited because his kid's fucking jacked and looks like a superhero.
Hey, listen, you can have guns all day. That gotta be functional strength that works, guys. That's gotta be.
I mean, hey, like he can look. Yeah, he might be the best looking dude in the room, but I mean, to my knowledge, I haven't seen the dude play a lick of football at the NFL level to make me feel any. Like what the dude's gonna have like 1 or 2 carries, and like we're all gonna get excited for nothing. You know what's gonna happen here? He's gonna barely see the football. He might play 10 or 15 plays. He'll have 2 touches, and we'll be like, oh, that was all for nothing. Then I'll go back to the practice squad next week because Jordan Howard will be on this team. And that's the way that's going to go. So, I mean,
and someone was even asking me, like, why isn't Howard dressed? I'm like, well, doesn't he have to go COVID protocols, I think, just because he switched teams?
Probably, yeah. He would have to probably pass the physical and the COVID protocol, and there's probably some shit that's going to go into that.
Yeah,
I would think, is there, like, maybe a 2-week thing? Like, I would think they maybe have a certain amount of days where, like, coming from a new team and all that, like, you might have to –
yeah, I think that's probably why he went to the practice squad and he wasn't, just initially dressed and everything like that. Just
I would think that probably has a lot to do with it. And Anthony, the piggyback off of Spidey's point, Mike Parker's Spidey, as we call him here at A2D. Anthony Ade says I would clean house from Howie to Doug and even players too. And see, in my definition of a failure, like what do I think needs to happen in order for Jeffrey Lurie to maybe get to that point? I think this needs to go from a failure to an embarrassment. Like that's what I really think needs to happen. Like I'm talking about we go when we lose to Cleveland, and that'll be something we'll get in here in a little bit. We'll get into that Cleveland game, obviously. But I'm talking about going and losing to Cleveland, maybe getting embarrassed there a little bit, right? And then you come home in prime time against Seattle in a game that we all talk about how jacked we are. We owe Seattle one, right? They beat us in 2017 at their place. They beat us at our place, last year twice. Regular season and the postseason, we owe them one. What if in prime time on Monday Night Football with the whole world watching, they come in and smoke us like 40-3 or something? Like that would get Jeffrey Lurie's attention. Like I think it's going to need to get to a point where it's embarrassing and it's not just a failure. We might have to go lose 5 in a row there, 6 in a row, lose to the Giants, Browns, and then the 4 tough games on the schedule that we have: Seattle, Green Bay, Arizona, New Orleans, all back to back. Like if we lost all of them and it got ugly in the process, yeah, I could definitely see it finally getting to that point where Jeffrey Lurie forces himself to look in the mirror and say, hey, I've got to have this conversation. It's something I need to do. But to your point and what we talked about last week, as much as it's just unfathomable that we lose to the Giants last week in the fashion that we did. This is the NFL, and I still feel like we're going to find a way to steal a game or two in this tough 5-game stretch we have coming up. And that, winning 2 games, like beating Seattle and beating Arizona would be enough for Jeffrey Lurie to be like, yeah, see, I'm happy enough with what I've seen down the stretch to ride with this trio next year.
Yeah, so
I'm firing everybody.
Like obviously, we're both coming well off of our talk last week when when we were looking at what was left for the rest of the season with what was moving forward.
Yeah, we looked at the schedule.
And when you have to re-examine that after that lackluster performance against the New York Giants, it's a divisional team. There's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for not
coming off a bye week, all the extra time to prepare. You come out and you look like a team that just isn't ready. They looked unprepared. They got out-coached again. How many times are we going to have that conversation? Like week in and week out, we're now having the conversation about Doug Peterson getting completely out-coached by whoever the hell's on the other sideline.
And like not just getting our coach, like what it was the combination of Jason Garrett and a guy who gets beat up by his offensive lineman during his
offensive line coach. How about that? When I read that, I said, dude, I thought Philly was dysfunctional. Dude, the head coach and the offensive line coach just got into a fist fight at practice, and it led to somebody getting fired. Like, holy shit, that's dysfunctional shit right there. I
And then
actually agree with Brickman. I think Lurie is soft as Charmin as an owner.
I agree, but I'm
Jake
on.
says the same thing.
Listen, where I'm at with the poll, I agree with the poll that I think, regardless if we sneak in the playoffs or whatever, like you said, regardless if there is that another embarrassing loss on primetime TV to Seattle or whatever, and somehow the Eagles still sneak in and get it, and have another lackluster loss in Lincoln Financial Field. What looks like it'll probably be either the Saints or Tom Brady who will play if we win the division. Now that's it.
Oh God! Can you imagine Tom Brady coming in here and smacking us? The Foles haters, or these Foles lovers. I mean, the Folesian society. Just give them another reason to just sit there and talk. Oh, Foles can beat Tom Brady.
Foles, we got to send some love to Big Nick over there. He got folded up like a chair.
Send some love. Okay, great. Yeah, the guy's day to day. He's gonna be okay. They've got a bye week. He might, but. Forget about the injury. The dude's about to lose his job back to Mitchell Trubisky. Like, they're about to give that job back to Mitchell Trubisky. That's how bad Nick Foles has been.
Tommy said he's lucky he talked too much last night.
What have I said now that has Tommy all fired up? Tommy, how have I gotten you fired up? What have I done within the first 10 minutes to get you to the point where you're already fired up?
Oh, no, I got him fired up yesterday. I got an earful yesterday. It's okay. I still love him. We've all been there. But
Tommy probably doesn't. I mean, I don't. What's he not liking about what I'm saying? I thought Tommy would agree right now. We're talking facts. This is some real talk. No notes, real talk on A2D radio. And Tommy's over here all fired up for no reason. Thought he would be enjoying this right now.
But now here's the thing. When you no, he's like nothing. He's just telling you why he's not there for the verbal beatdown he said he was going to be giving. What was that, 2 weeks ago now?
Tommy loves verbally sparring with me. I'm one of his favorite people to verbally spar with. He knows it. He loves going back and forth with me. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely fun going back and forth with you, especially when you get mad and go off on your tangents. I'm not gonna lie. But now, all right, they don't make the playoffs. I still don't think the freaking nerd is going to go anywhere. I think I think what he would probably do is just clean out the coaching staff. Give Carson another 2 years to see if he can kind of figure things out with that. And if not, then you move on from the whole lot, and we're really going to have to probably blow this whole thing up.
Well, here's my thing with that. And this is what people like. I think, the people have to Tommy ran out of Bang energy drinks, and that's why he's all fired up. Maybe. Could be. That's accurate. Could be. It might be. Could be accurate, definitely. No, I think the thing that people realize, if we're having a blowing up conversation, like the one person, as many people out there that might, be ready to have him as a part of this conversation too. Carson's probably the one guy that's not going anywhere, just because the dead cap that you take on by trading him or releasing him, and you're already in a bad cap situation. So the way I look at it is, if anything, this is a situation where you say, well, why would you fire your head coach and your GM and bring in a whole new regime? Because you're almost at a point where you've got 2 years to find out whether you can fix Carson and get him back to the player that he was, or whether you can't. And I've got to focus on starting to do that next year. I can't wait and say, okay, we're going to have one more year with this coaching staff. And even if you fire Howie and you bring in a new GM, what good does that do for Doug Peterson? Because now he feels like the lame duck head coach, because he's got a new GM that's sitting there ready to have him in his crosshairs and pull the trigger to fire him the first chance he gets. So I feel like if you're firing one, you're firing both. And you just have to try to start over and say, we've got to try to bring in 2 people, a GM and a coach, that are going to be able to put people around Carson to be able to fix him and find out whether or not we're moving forward with him or somebody else in the next 2 years. I don't think you can wait until 2022 to do that. I think you've got to start trying to do that next year.
And Don, it's absolutely...
Who gets fired first, Doug or Howie? I mean, I think it's both.
I don't think it can. I don't think it is.
To your point,
I already says the nerd survives. Okay. The nerd survives. I hate it. I hate it. They both do need to go.
Answer this. I agree with you. I don't necessarily think Lurie would fire Howie, but let's not use the word fire. Let's say he reassigns Howie. Howie gets reassigned. He's no longer
Again?
the GM.
Again?
He's been reassigned to some other front office role. Is that the same as being fired? And kinda. That's like when they say we mutually agreed to part ways. That means we decided that say it was mutual so that they didn't fire my ass and it looked a lot worse than it needed to be. That's what that was. If I didn't mutually agree to part ways, they were just going to fire my ass anyway. So, I look at it as say he reassigns Howie to another front office role because he feels like he could be a help with cap management or whatever. And maybe he can. Okay, fine. And then he assigns somebody else to the personnel position. To me, that still works. Like, I know you're not full on firing Howie, he's being reassigned, but that still works for me. Like, I know he's no longer in charge of personnel, so I'm okay with that. Like, to me, that's still the equivalent of him getting fired in this process. But I feel like that's like my big point with the Peterson thing. Like, usually the way the league works, like if you're going to bring in a new GM, they want their own guy. Like, they want their guy as head coach, and they don't want him.
I think we're all with you at this point,
Sean.
Sean, we're all with you at this point. We're sick of Howie. I get it.
Well, we've all been sick of Howie for a while.
We're sitting there saying he's great with numbers, but look where we're at in the cap situation. Look what we're gonna what we're gonna have to do in the offseason because of his bad moves, because of his poor drafting, because of having to trade this and trade that off.
He's been the Elton Brand, right? He's put us in an Elton Brand position with contracts, and now we need to go find a Daryl Morey to come in here and fix everything, and get rid of a Fletcher Cox contract, and get rid of contracts that are holding this team back with older players. And find a way
literally the whole
move forward in a better direction.
All the defensive tackles could very well be gone this offseason.
All of them. Jason Kelsey's probably gone. He either retires or he's gone. Jason Peters gone. You've got Lane Johnson. That's going to be the anchor there for you on the offensive line, and you're hoping Dillard comes back and could be a player. But if not, you're at least happy with maybe the depth that you found this year with young players. But Jason Kelsey being on this team,
the only person you can really shine a light on and put your hat on anything is Malott at this time. But they took his time out of his rotation.
Himself into that position where he's your future left tackle, right? Like, you feel like without question he's your guy at that position now going forward. And if you got him in Lane, you feel like you probably got a pretty good anchor, to start on that offensive line for the next 5 years.
Let's see what Matt has to say. He's got a little story. Carson's new money doesn't even start until next season, so
exactly.
they marriage between him and Doug works. That's what we've been saying, and I think Doug and his 17 assistant offensive coordinators need to be fired, along with Jim Howie and the bread. The bread's gone stale.
Jim and Howie, and then the bread's gone stale.
Yeah. And I'm with you. I don't think it's not that he doesn't have the balls. I just think I just think they're thinking they're too smart, or this thing could be fixed, and this thing, like, listen, I think it's something we need to all. I think we all need to realize that we kept the wrong coach, not the wrong quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, people that want to act like the Frank Reich thing isn't a big deal or delusional. Losing Frank Reich in this whole ordeal.
I didn't forget Brandon Brooks has come back. That right side of the line's fine. That's why I said, like, you just have to figure out what you're doing with center, left guard, and left tackle. That's it.
I can't hang my hat on Brandon Brooks coming back and being a good player. I mean, it's one thing to blow out one Achilles tendon. When you have two of those injuries, you're getting to a point where, like,
he's a guard. That's the thing. He's a guard. He's not a tackle.
That's even worse because you talk about these big guys. I mean, these big guys, like, they need their lower half to be strong. Like,
I know.
I'm not saying he can't come back and be a good player, but a guy at 330 pounds, I need him to prove he can come back off an injury like that and stay healthy and be effective again.
Our lack of drafting over the past 5 years, overpaid old free agents to make up for bad drafting is why I don't know. See, I think the drafting, people look at the misses and the misses for them. They're like, oh, well, look how bad our drafting's been. We've had some bad misses, but it's not like we haven't found, guys. I mean, even this past year. I mean, you go back to the 2018 draft. There's 5 guys from that draft that are starting on this football team, and whether or not they're good players or not, the bottom line is they're starting on this football team. So, like, how mad can you be about a draft class if 5 of the guys from that draft class are now starting on your team? That's a pretty decent draft class. Now, on top of that, we had a draft class where I think there's only one guy from that draft class that's even still on this team.
and only like 2 or 3 guys in that class that are even still in the league, and that's really bad. I think that was the Joe Douglas year. The 2017 draft was really bad. But, yeah, we've had some misses. Obviously, the DK Metcalf miss is huge, and that's going to be one that haunts us forever. I know everybody wants to get caught up on the Jefferson Rager thing. Rager could still turn out, probably will still turn out to be a really good player, so that is what it is. But not taking DK Metcalf and instead taking JJ Ortega-Whiteside is just another example of a long history in Philly sports of us, you just chalk those things up. We've done that forever and ever and ever in this city. We took Mike Mamula or somebody like that over Warren Sapp and shit, right? Like it's things that could have happened in this city in all different, not just the Eagles, but all different sports, and for whatever reason, it doesn't happen. It ends up always going down in history as just another example of why we're, Negadelphia and for the most part, we're usually losers and all that. It's like we can't have nice things. We always bitch about that shit. We take Larry Hughes instead of Paul Pierce, shit like that, right? Like that's for me just what it is. I don't really think like I don't think our drafts have been terrible, but it also hasn't been good enough for me to sit here and say it's worth Howie keeping his job. So,
yeah, I think the overall crux of what we're gonna end this part of it is we know that they probably do need to do it, and I think it's safe to say both the fan base, the fans, and probably even the media itself agrees that Jeffrey Lurie won't blow this thing up when it needs to win. I think it's clear the since the Super Bowl the trend hasn't been the trend that they told us is going to be. Instead of up, it's down.
So if Jeffrey Lurie is actually hearing all the outside noise and hears everybody else, which we know Jeffrey Lurie pays attention to that shit. He's been in this city too long to not hear it all and know where it's coming from. Will that, like, Jeffrey Lurie, I feel like one thing he is a prideful person. If everybody else around the situation is that, like, upset about, they think it's done and Howie needs to go and Doug needs to go and we need to just go in a new direction, will that maybe be enough for Lurie to be like, you know what, as much as I don't want to make the decision, as much as it's not something I want to do, maybe it's just something that has to be done regardless of how I feel about it because, this is something that is, the fan base here, obviously, that they, more than most football cities, we seem to really have an impact on things that we could affect things that go on with this football team a little bit more than most fan bases can in any sports, right? In any of the sports, we kind of seem to have our outside noise seems to affect things a little bit more, or at least we like to think it does, a little bit more than any of these other franchises in sports. He did that with Chip Kelly when people were leaving Lincoln Financial Field early. And
here's a real question for you. Here's a real question for you. What do our Eagles do with Andre Dillard next year? Because even prior to the injury, there was murmurs and rumors going around that he wasn't getting it, and that's the reason why we brought Jason Peters back. And where the questions was to bring Jason back in the general sense it was, and people were kind of upset about that just because it doesn't really let Andre develop. This, that, and the third. Injury happens, and then also Jason gets injured, and Jordan Mailata comes in. That's where the real crux of this conversation is going to go moving forward. Is I think what the Eagles coaches should do after the season ends, moving forward. Andre comes back, he's healthy regardless. He has to beat Jordan Mailata for that job. That it's not his. It's not anybody's job. If anything, it should be Jordan Mailata's job. We don't know how that's going to play out. My gut says, oh, well, we invested a first-round draft pick into him, and they're going to plug him in there until something happens. That's what I actually think is going to happen with them.
A lot of that's going to come down to what happens with the front office situation. If Howie's here, or if they don't relieve him,
I got this one from.
We can both be in agreement he's going to be here. If they don't relieve him from personnel duties and he's still the guy in charge of personnel next year, I can see what you're saying.
Do we have a crumb here? Because I don't know what makes you think the Cowboys are going to win 6 games this season.
Yeah, this guy's a crumb. He doesn't. I'm not even reading his comments. He doesn't deserve to. to get his comment read. Anthony, that's an interesting comment there. It feels like the Norman Brayman years ago, have all this talent, my favorite Norman Brayman story is when he was getting a haircut in a barbershop in Philadelphia, and the rumors had come out that he was thinking about moving the team to Phoenix, Arizona. And, a bunch of angry Eagles fans showed up outside the barbershop, and we're all, banging on the windows outside the barbershop. I got your haircut right here. Come out here.
I knew Brickman was going to come in this one. I guess we'll touch on a few more of these comments before we touch on the Browns game. Explain to me the 2-point conversions. He needs to stop listening to whoever. Listen. It's a feel. It's a feel. It should never be just because of what the script says.
I think Doug's full of shit. When he we listened to the analytics, you're so full of shit. The analytics didn't tell you to go for 2 there. There's no fucking way the analytics told you to go for 2 there, Doug. That's a bunch of nonsense. That pisses me off. I feel like that's it. He doesn't want to take responsibility and ownership of that type of shit. So he sits there and he fucking pushes it off on the analytics guys and shit. What the fuck do they have to do with anything? So is it your football team or theirs? Because they told you it was a good idea to go for 2, you went for it? Do you do everything they tell you? The fuck? You're the head coach of the football team. Tell them it's a stupid idea.
Zach, I know you got some venom to unleash, so I'm going to just let you have it, dude. I'm going to just let you have it. I'm going to just let you have it. It's funny. It's funny. It's really funny. It's funny. How are we biased? All right, listen. Let's get it in your head, sir. I'm going to be nice.
Where did we say the Eagles are going to win the division?
We didn't say we were going to win the division. We just know how bad. Listen, we know how bad we are right now, and you guys are several levels below that. You are the juice at the bottom of the dumpster pile. Okay, understand that. Relax.
I think the Giants and the Redskins
we're all
have
bad
a better
this
chance
season.
of winning the division.
There's nothing. No one's being biased about nothing. We just sat here for freaking the better part of 30 minutes of trash our franchise, but we're biased. Get out of here, dude.
I'm sorry. The Washington football team. I just called them that word that we're not allowed to use, or else, we'll get labeled a way that we don't want to get labeled, The Washington football team, and the New York Giants, not the Washington, whatever they were before this year. They have
I wouldn't disagree with that. Right now, it's the Giants' division to lose. I wouldn't disagree with that.
I don't disagree with it either. They've put themselves in a good position.
Chris, go home. Go just drink on some more mommy sauce. It doesn't matter if they had that. Coulda, shoulda, woulda, but don't.
Yeah.
We'll move on.
Brinkman. Oh, Jesus. I've got a funny feeling Dallas is going to win the next 2, and then Week 17 between Dallas and New York is for the division.
I can't necessarily say that that's not a possible outcome here. I can't. I would love to tell Rob that he's wrong right now, but in my gut, in my heart, I know I can't.
Who's Dallas going to beat with that defense, though? They stink. They are not just bad, they're historically bad. That team also gave up when Dak got hurt. I don't know if you noticed that. Dak got hurt, that team quit. Andy Dalton got his head taken off by a cheap shot. They were just fuck it. They didn't even care.
And you just bring up a point here, dude. Literally, you remember when that happened in Washington? And what was the Knicks' first run? Jason Peters damn near started a riot on the on the sideline. Okay.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys players had all their backs to them, just oh, okay. What's going on here? Our quarterback just got murdered. No. Is that paycheck clearing this week? Oh.
Yeah. Okay. That's all they give a fuck about. How about come on. The Cowboys aren't winning the division. They had a dude on their defense that came out and said, we don't give 100% effort on every play because this is the NFL. Who really expects that of you? Listen, this is what the hell they got going for them. So, I'm just saying, they ain't winning the division with people with attitudes like that.
At this point right now, I think Dallas is 1-2 in the division too. So come on, get out of here.
I'll tell you what, I would be fighting people if you were my teammate and I heard you make a comment like that about, we don't give 100% effort on every play. This is the NFL. Who expects you to do that? I do, and I'm gonna be fighting your ass after practice. As soon as you get to the locker room, we're fighting. What a bunch of nonsense. They have zero winners on that team. There's not a leader in that locker room. It's because they allow shit like that to go on.
You're boring me, bro. Come up with something new,
So
bro.
aren't the Eagles also, dude, first of all, learn some English and actually speak properly with grammar, and actually, sound educated, or else I'm not even going to bother bringing you up on our show. We're too educated for you to be over here butchering the English language.
All right. So let's lend the comment fiasco. Let's get into the Eagles Browns matchup here. And a week ago I thought this was a win, and I can't for the life of me tell myself or anyone else that the Eagles are going to win this game against the Browns.
You can't pick the Eagles to win this. No, hell no.
I think Tommy already said it. You got to show me. You got to show me. It's got to be on the field. You got to show me.
I'll say this. I think one of two things happens with this game. I think it goes one of two ways. I think it's really simple. It's going to be a blowout one way or the other. Either we're going to come in there and we're going to absolutely get our asses kicked, and it's going to be so embarrassing. It's going to be one of the worst, moments in recent Eagles history. Go to Cleveland and get embarrassed by Cleveland. Like you get embarrassed by Cleveland. Like oof, it don't get much lower than that, right? Or we're so fired up and we come out and we play such a good football game because we've got such a fire under our ass with everything that's going on this week with the sloppy practice habits and all the things that everybody's had to address. Doug Peterson got a little bit pissed off and kind of seemed to get snappy and fired back at Angelo Cataldi and a bunch of clowns there in Philly local radio. Carson had to defend himself. Brandon Graham came out and tried to be the leader in that situation and say, we're going to police all of this ourselves. I look at that and I say one of two things is going to happen. This isn't going to be a close football game. It's not going to be one of a game we've seen all year where we've kind of been there the whole game and been a grinded out type of performance and maybe we have a chance to win in the end. We're either going to get our asses kicked or we're going to kick their ass. It's not going to be anywhere in between that. Doug is the retarded version of Chip Kelly. At least Chip knows the X's and O's, but Doug gets confused by tying his shoe.
No. I still think that.
Oh.
I'll give you a pass on that one, Anthony. But Brinkman, yeah, Eagles being fired up is it is laughable. It is laughable.
That's a good point, Rob.
Yeah, you have to think about it right now, and we're going back into with this whole thing, and it's just a bad situation, and they've continued to let the situation get worse, and this is their mess. How Carson's playing, how the offense is playing, that's their mess. Completely and utterly neglecting the linebacker position to the point where you guys get ran off the field. I mean, come on.
So is it kind of ironic? We had the comments that came out. We got the soundbite.
And this is what me and you were already talking during the week. This has to happen. You cannot let Hunt and Chubb grind your defense up. You cannot let them do it.
A game where both of them just ran for over 100 yards. They both just ran for over 100 yards.
And this is another point. And here's another point for this week that's big. That there is no Myles Garrett, which is big.
No Myles Garrett. So that just means some no-name dude comes in and off their defensive end position and smokes the hell out of Carson from his blind side. And we're there's Jason Peters getting burned again. Anyway.
There's a good one, Rob. Where is Davion Taylor? Well, I would ask. Shouldn't we ask the coaches? Shouldn't we ask the coaches?
Did you know he played over 50% of the snaps last week? Because I didn't. You couldn't watch the game and watch the film and be like, oh, this guy was on the field for that many snaps. Like, what? Do what? I thought I saw him involved in a play like once or twice. I was like, he was on the field for over 50% of the snaps. Good God. I saw that they had Alex Singleton lined up outside in one-on-one man coverage with a wide receiver.
Brinkman's coming at it now.
That was interesting.
Where's Kavion Wallace? Where's Will Parks? Where's all these guys you brought in?
Kavion Wallace and Will Parks. I mean, I disagree with that. I think if you go back and you look at some of the film and you go back and break down the game, you'll see those guys at least being involved in the game. They're involved. They're there in the process. Of trying to make plays. Davion Taylor's been a total joke so far. The dude's been on the field. He's just been a total waste of space. at least Parks and Wallace, they're sticking their nose in there and they're getting themselves involved with shit. Taylor's just been awful. Roby Coleman's been a complete disappointment. Probably the biggest disappointment this year of anybody we've signed and brought in.
And that's another one, Matt. Hunt destroyed us the Super Bowl season in that regular season game, just up and down the field. But I actually think it's not even that our defense was better, just that they were playing better. It's not even the personnel was even that much better. Just the linebackers is a joke, and it's not even they guess it. It could just be the flat out that they're just being schemed out of where they need to be.
I don't know. I don't think he's got that right because Kareem Hunt wasn't he? He was with the Chiefs in 2017. We didn't play the Chiefs in 2017, did we?
Or maybe he's thinking 16, the rookie year.
Well, Hunt was with the Chiefs and then got released after he got in all that trouble, and then ended up with the Browns last year.
Maybe he was thinking the rookie year, not 17.
Or maybe he's thinking of whoever the Browns running back was at that time. But even that's a good point. Whoever the Browns running back was in 2017 when we played them, kicked their, whenever the hell it was that we're talking about, he kicked their ass. And we might have played them in 2018. That might have been what it was. Hunt might have been there because it was 2018. But I get what he's saying. Right. If they ran all over us last time that we played them, they've got two guys that can do that. And our defense is worse. So what makes us think that we're going to be able to have an answer?
I wouldn't want to have Chip Kelly calling plays. Anything to get Doug out of that. Like he's gotten into this lull. I don't know what it is, and it's not just that. Just we've all kind of mentioned it. I think throughout this network, throughout the last few weeks. Like where was the quarterback we seen in 17 that used to go over with his coordinator and just used to break stuff down on the tablets in game? We don't see that anymore. It doesn't happen.
I'll say this because his point of scratching his head and getting confused looking at the play sheet. First game of 2017 was the Chiefs. No, it wasn't. We played the Redskins in the first game of 2017. We didn't play Kansas City. Whatever. That's irrelevant. Anyway. I mean, it's at a point where Doug, I don't want to say he looks confused, but yeah, like you're over there and he just, when you're looking at the camera on him as he's looking at the play sheet, there's almost as if you're like, he doesn't look like he's a guy with a direction or a game plan. Like he's just over there picking plays off the play sheet that he likes. Like, yeah, I like that one. Let's go with that one. Like this play. Like I don't really see I feel like a good play caller has the game set up, like start to finish. He's got a direction that he wants the game to go from a play calling perspective. And everything that he calls throughout the course of that game is to try to set up other play calls. You know what I mean? Like I'm calling this play now because we're going to set up this play later type of thing. I don't see any of that with Doug. Like I don't see the idea of, a plan in place where you're like, the reason we're calling these plays in the first quarter is because in the third quarter coming out of halftime, we want to do this and calling these plays now. We're going to set that up later. Like that's what good play callers do. I don't see Doug doing that. To me, it really just looks like a guy that's like and kind of making it up as he goes. That play looks good right now. I like that play. Okay, let's go with that one. Like, and to your point, yeah, it did seem like that's not something I necessarily thought about, but it did seem like quarterbacks could come over to the sideline and have a little bit more of a discussion with him early on in 2016, 2017. Hey, what do you want to do here? And Carson would be like, I want to do this. I want to do that. Doug's like, okay, let's go with this because, we're both on the same page. We kind of like that idea. And instead of that being the case now, it does seem like a lot more of like it's Doug taking control of the situation. And whatever conversations are being had with the quarterback on the sideline, it's much more of Doug being the guy that's doing all the talking and the quarterback's doing the listening as opposed to it being a mutual thing. Whether that has anything to do with the offense not being successful, I don't know. But I'm tired of sitting here and speculating, right? The bottom line is it's been 3 years where the offense has gotten worse and worse and worse. And you want to talk about the one big thing I'll bring up before we move on here? Because we can sit here and talk about, Jeffrey or Howie Roseman or Doug Peterson, if there's enough talent, yada, yada, yada. We know for a fact that coaching is at least part of the issue because we had a guy like Golden Tate that was a part of this team. And Doug Peterson openly admitted that they were struggling to involve him in the game plan. Golden Tate's a guy that's been a good player everywhere he's ever been except here. And that might be a good point, Jesse, that Frank Reich designed the plays and Doug just made the call. But when it's getting to a point where Golden Tate's a guy that's been a great receiver. Not just a good receiver, Steven, right? Golden Tate's been a great receiver for every team he's played for outside of here, and he couldn't even see the field when he was here. That tells me, I can't blame the Golden Tate situation on Howie Roseman. That's coaching. So how many other situations are coaching where, it's not that a guy doesn't have talent. It's just that the coaches aren't getting the most out of guys.
Doug gets
to play some Tecmo Bowl.
That wouldn't surprise me. That's
the old backyard football games.
It wouldn't surprise me, but I mean, I wouldn't. All right, now here we're gonna have to address this one. Carson has been mediocre since 17.
Yeah, I completely disagree. Because he played lights out for most of last year. I mean, if you go back and look at his games last year, he had 3 bad games. 3. He had 3 bad games, 2 average games, and then 11 games where he was really, really good. And a few games in that 11-game stretch where he was phenomenal and played like an elite quarterback. So yeah, to me that's I can't stand that comment.
And here's the other thing about it. On the backside of that is where you're hearing like Carson has all these bad practicing habits and this, that, and the third. And like here we go again with this thing. And then does anyone not remember what Doug used to sit there and say about this guy during the Super Bowl run?
How about the soundbite that came out? We heard the soundbite from the 49ers game in 2017. During that Super Bowl year, where Doug's talking to John Lynch, and he says, this guy's phenomenal. His preparation, the way he practices, the way he prepares. Right. Literally Doug in that soundbite that we posted on A2D on all of our social media pages this week, that soundbite right there disproved all of the nonsense that we heard this week about Carson and lazy practice habits and all that nonsense. That wasn't the case in 2017 when Doug Peterson was telling John Lynch that this kid's phenomenal and the way he prepares and the way he gets ready and the way he gets himself mentally ready and then physically ready and all these things. It didn't sound like a guy that had lazy practice habits when we were listening to that soundbite. So let's just go along with the little report that we just had that maybe Carson's getting away with lazy practice habits now. You know who that falls back onto for me again is the coaching staff. If the guy at one point didn't have the lazy practice habits, and you were sitting there saying that the guy was, one of the guys in practice that worked his ass off and got himself prepared better than anybody else, and now all of a sudden he's a guy that's being lazy, well, whose fault is that? That comes down to coaching and not riding somebody's ass the way you need to. But, Doug, I love the irony in the end of that soundbite where he says, it's going to be awesome unless we don't fuck it up, right? Unless we screw them up.
Yeah, I think that's what I think that's where you were going is what he was trying to get to, but I guess things get lost in translation on social media.
But that wasn't a shot at Carson. Okay, yeah, well, but the truth of the matter is, no matter whose fault it was, Carson wasn't mediocre last year. So I don't think that's he hasn't been mediocre since 2017. He set franchise records last year. So how can I
don't know if he had his best season. I still don't see how you sit there and see he had his best season last year either. But okay.
Well, 2017 would have been his best season. He just didn't complete it. So, but last year would have easily been his second best season, and it wouldn't have been far behind that MVP year. You know what I mean? You wouldn't. It's not like you would look at last year and say, there's no way to look at last year and say he was mediocre. That just seems ridiculous. It just seems unfair to everybody involved with that situation. But, see, every game it feels like Doug quit on the team and the players quit on Doug. See, I disagree. I think that's the one thing that we don't see here is like anytime you can get to the point where it's like, that's about to happen. This team seems to have pride, and that's why I've always defended Doug as a head coach. But we've gotten to the point where Doug's made it clear when everybody else sits here and can see that Doug's a shitty offensive coordinator and he sucks as an offensive mind. But he's convinced in his own head that he's a good offensive coordinator, a good offensive mind, a guy that calls a solid offensive game. He came out on radio this past week and said, I thought I was calling great plays. I was in a rhythm. Unfortunately, Doug during that time couldn't see that the team wasn't in a rhythm. So I thought I was in a rhythm. Well, it's like you're supposed to get the team in a rhythm. It's not really about whether you're in a rhythm or not, Doug. Like the team needs to get
back to the saying, we're sitting there saying that I think no matter what, moving forward, I think Doug is going to have to either be the guy removed from play calling or just gotta go.
Maybe that's the question we can ask of Jeffrey Lurie, because I know unless this gets really ugly, I don't think he's firing Doug Peterson. I also don't think he'll fire Howie. He might reassign him. But would he have the balls to step in and tell Doug, listen, I don't care how good of a play caller you think you are. I don't care how good of an offensive coordinator you think you are. If you want to continue to be the head coach, you have to give up offensive play calling. Like, you just have to. Okay, it's not up for debate. If you still want to be the head coach, you're no longer the offensive coordinator. We're bringing in somebody that's going to be in charge of this offense.
This is something
and you're just going to focus on being the head coach.
Something me and Zach have been talking about is Carson's only reading half the field again.
At times, yeah, but I think part of that, and I think he's always had a little bit of that issue when he stays in the pocket. I think part of what's always helped that is getting him outside the pocket. And Doug Peterson openly admitted this week that he needs to do a better job of getting Carson outside the pocket, which it just continues to drive you crazy because we've sat here for like 8 weeks on radio and talked about, why aren't they moving Carson outside the pocket by design? Like, why aren't they, designing plays to move him outside the pocket? They called 2 design plays last week, 2 in the Giants game, 2 where it was designed for Carson to get outside the pocket, and they went 2 for 2 throwing the ball for over 40 yards on those 2 plays. So I just, to me, like, it's just so irritating and frustrating to hear the guy say, oh, well, yeah, we're going to do a better job of getting him outside the pocket. Bro, it took you till week 10 to figure that the fuck out? You have how many offensive coaches on this staff that you brought in that are supposed to be senior consultants and shit, and not one of them got to you and was like, hey, bro, like, what would really help this offense? Moving the quarterback outside the pocket. I find that hard to believe. I find it more likely that people were coming to Doug and saying, hey, we need to do more of that, and Doug was being too hard-headed and saying, no, I like what we're doing, and decided that he knew better than everybody else, and that, I'm going to continue to call the games I want to call them. Because I haven't seen any concerted effort at any point to try to move the pocket one way or another to get Carson in a position where he's at least comfortable. I know Carson isn't playing well, but you know what you do? Like, when people aren't playing well, right, you try to do everything you can to make them as comfortable as possible, hoping they'll snap out of that funk, right? You don't put them in tougher positions to succeed, being like, hey, the guy's already struggling. Let's make it harder for him. Like, and I feel like that's what we're doing. Like, the guy hasn't played well all year, yet you also haven't put him in positions to play well at any point. So, it's just like at some point,
it's a combination of things. A combination of having injuries at the beginning of the season, kind of limiting what he's been able to do. Terrible play calling, terrible game management. I mean, you can go down the list. It's just been a house of horrors of 2020 for the Philadelphia Eagles football season.
Yeah, Doug talks about the injuries, and he came out and said, the injuries affected, the early flow or whatever of this football team or something.
You just continue to run the ball because it's the only thing you've done at least fairly proficiently so far this season.
But I get that. Okay, so injuries means that you're going to have guys out there that aren't maybe as good as the guys that are injured. What the hell does that have to do with you or your offensive design and your play calling? The bottom line is you're still going to call the same offensive game. You're still going to try to design a creative offensive system, and then you find out which guys can play in that system and which guys can't. You're not just going to dump down the system because you're like, well, these guys suck. Let's dump it down. That's stupid. That's like the worst idea I've ever heard when it comes to any type of, like, who does that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I watched the 49ers have 16 guys on their COVID list, and I watched some white guy step in to play wide receiver that I've never seen on an active roster at any point in 3 years, in his 3 years in the NFL, and the dude had 10 catches that game. 10 catches. I mean, we had no idea who the guy was. Kyle Shanahan didn't dumb anything in. He just said, here, we're going to run the system that we run. It's designed the way it is for a reason. Step in and you have a chance to make a play. Like, I watch guys like Mac Hollins go and make plays for Miami. Like, Mac Hollins is catching a touchdown in Miami, and he hadn't made a catch here since 2017, and he finally got released. Like, don't tell me there's not a coaching issue there. Like, yeah, I get it. Mac Hollins isn't any good. But if a coaching staff is getting something out of him in Miami and Doug Peterson couldn't get something out of him here, that's on Doug. That's on the coaching staff. Like, it is what it is. Yeah, the guy stinks. You still got to find a way to get something out of him. He can't be going to Miami and making plays there and all. Like, I'm not dismissing the fact that the guy stunk here if he's making plays somewhere else. How many guys? And it's not just. I mean, Sidney Jones is one of the best cornerbacks in football with the Jaguars. All of a sudden, right? He's all of a sudden one of the better corners in football. Nelson Aguilar, we continue to rip the guy. He leads the Raiders in touchdown catches. Nelson Aguilar. The guy couldn't catch COVID here. He leads the Raiders in touchdown catches.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, at some point, exactly. At some point in time, you have to hold the coaches accountable for it. But let's kind of try to bring it back. Let's get back to this game. Let's get back to the game. What do you think the Eagles are going to have to do to beat this team offensively? All right, Miles is back. You're going to have Elijah there this week. I think I don't think.
Hold on. I promise you, we'll have a conversation next Saturday during the show. And one of the conversations we're going to have is, hey, did you know Elijah Holyfield was active this week? Because I didn't see him do shit. We're going to sit there and literally have a conversation about the fact that Elijah Holyfield got activated and we didn't see him touch a ball a single time. Universal Douglas is having a good year. That's another one. All these guys that have left and, all of a sudden they're having better years. Not a coincidence, is it?
Man, all right, we changed it up real fast. Like, why are you coming after Dank, man? How you know what kind of stuff he got in his pocket for that? What's up?
Yeah, I know for a fact he was smoking some blueberry Kush. So anyway.
Yeah, here's another good one from Dank.
It does. That's a great one, Dank. If anything, I think that's the most accurate thing you've said so far. It does remind me of the end of the end of Andy's tenure here, where you realize, regardless of whether Andy's a good head coach or any of that, it's something just isn't working anymore. Like it's time for a change. This has run its course. It's over, and we've got to make a change. That's what this does remind me.
You'd have figured after what happened in the last 2 seasons, Doug would have tried to have a fresh new set of ideas, plays, etc., whatever, coming into this season, knowing what was at stake. And like I said, he's actively regressed.
And he talks about reaching his end with coaches. I think another good thing to bring up is we talk about how stubborn Doug's gotten with some of the coaches he's brought in. Remember when Andy fired Sean McDermott and promoted Juan Castillo to be the defensive coordinator? Juan Castillo, our former offensive line coach, and all of a sudden he's coaching the defense. That's like that. Those are the types of things where you're just like, Andy's got to go. Like, there's to a point where he's trying to outsmart everybody. He's promoting offensive line coaches to be defensive coordinators.
The fact that we haven't had an offensive coordinator the last few years should have been enough there.
Yeah, like things like that. Like it looks very, very similar. I would be very okay with Dan Quinn as my new defensive coordinator. I would be 100% okay with Dan Quinn as a defensive coordinator for this football team. Absolutely. I would have no problems with that at all. Jim Cardwell should already have been an offensive coordinator, but Doug was too stubborn to hire the guy and give him any type of responsibility. So,
I just don't get why you know what your quarterback is, the style play he plays, the style of team you have, but you're still trying to run a style offense that doesn't suit.
He's trying to run a West Coast offense with a big play quarterback. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you run a West Coast offense with Tom Brady and Joe Montana. You don't run a West Coast offense. Like, even when they tried to do that with Brett Favre in Green Bay, they modified it because they knew they had to, right? Like, Holmgren he ran like a modified West Coast because he realized I've got a guy in Brett Favre that's always going to be trying to make the big play. So he's never really going to play within the system. We're just going to he's always going to be this little bit of a free spirit. We just got to tame him a little bit. And instead of trying to tame Carson a little bit, instead of trying to tame, the player that Carson is, they've tried to just completely shelter him, like almost to the point where instead of taming him, they've completely neutered him. Right? That they completely cut off his balls. Right? It's went from being able to try to tame the guy a little bit and just get him under control to where now that whole sex drive that he had, when he was a puppy, when he was a young pup in this league is gone because we decided to neuter him completely. I think that's a good analogy there. We stopped allowing Carson to be Carson because we still saw early on examples in the Ravens game and the Steelers game earlier this year when he got back to being Carson, where he played with that reckless style of play, where he'd lower the shoulder and try to run over linebackers. He made plays, right? He almost brought us back and won us that Ravens game when it looked like we were left for dead. So, I just think he needs a guy. He said air raid offense.
It's not starting. That happened after the end of the last season.
Yeah, that's already there. But they got another guy that said we need an air raid offense. I just think they need somebody that's going to allow Carson to be Carson. I think Carson at times feels as if, he's going to get yelled at or he's going to get criticized. Like the coaching staff's going to get on him if he goes out and does those things, the things that make Carson Carson. And sometimes you just got to let a player be who they are.
Yeah.
And take the good with the bad. And I think he just needs a coach that's going to take the good with the bad and say, hey, that's just another example of Carson being Carson. And there's going to be some good times. There's going to be some bad times. And you take the good with the bad because there's usually more good than there is bad. Yeah, I see that's why I'm with Dank. Like, Doug thinks his offense works. Like, everybody else is like, no, this isn't working. And Doug's still convinced that it does work. And it's the players that aren't executing and those types of things where it's obvious to everybody else that, maybe players aren't executing the way they need to. But the coaches also like that, it's this idea that Doug sits here and tries to talk about as if the coach, oh, yeah, we called a great offensive game. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And the fact that you can't sit here and admit that during your live press conference the Monday after a football game is kind of scary. Everybody else can see how bad it was on your end, but you can't see it. If he goes for 2 one more time. Yeah, that's almost – and when he's going for fourth down, I mean, it was one thing when he was being aggressive, but he's almost like Jake Elliott missed a couple kicks and started choking on that $21 million, and all of a sudden he's acting like the kicking game, it's not even a part of the NFL anymore. Like, fuck it, we can't even try to kick a field goal. Like, we don't have to go for it on 4th and 5 when you could kick a 35-yard field goal instead. Like, holy shit. Just kick the 35-yarder. Well, what if Jake Elliott misses it again? Okay, well, then you have a reason to cut Jake Elliott at the end of the year. It's not rocket science.
But, again, back to the game. What are your score predictions? What do you see this one playing out? Do you see kind of a similar to
I told you it goes one of 2 ways, right? I told you it goes one of 2 ways. Either we get our ass kicked or we kick their ass. And I'm not predicting us to kick anybody's ass. So, therefore, I think we get our ass kicked. Watch Baker Mayfield have one of his best games of his career. You want to get some people in this fan base triggered. You want to get people triggered in this fan base? Let Baker Mayfield throw for 350 and 4 touchdowns on this defense. And they put up like 500 yards of offense and drop a 40 spot on us. Oh, my God. You want to see some people get triggered. We'll lose like 41-7.
Someone has a repeat of last week's score, basically.
Realistically, I see like 35-14. Like maybe 40.
That's ugly, Dank. That's ugly, Dank. Ugh.
Maybe 42-7 is being a little bit too much of an
I don't disagree with that. But no, I think that it's not just that. It's also if Baker like Zach's over here saying, if Baker Mayfield has a game and he torches that secondary or makes big play after big play, yeah, you might see a riot, and it's not going to have anything to do with anything that has to do anything social wise. It is going to have nothing to do with this football team.
Not going to have anything to do with politics. Nothing to do with social issues. It's going to have everything to do with the fact that people are going to be calling for everybody's head. It's going to be shitty weather, I think. Oh, well, that just means Doug Peterson's going to see, that's perfect. That's perfect. It'll be shitty weather. So when Doug throws the ball 52 times and we have to sit here and get an explanation from him on Monday for why
who's going to be hitting them early and often? Who's going to be hitting them early and often? Because,
Davion Taylor.
Like I said, we've already said it already that most of the way this season, the only guy I've seen that showed up on game in and game out this season has been Brandon Graham. That's it. Everyone else has been super inconsistent, and you're here 1 minute, you take the next 2 series off, whatever.
I think Darius Slay's actually played very well. Maybe people are ripping him a little bit. I don't think he even played bad in the Giants game. I mean, the play down the field, he was right there, great coverage, had the hand up in the face. It's just a great catch by the – I mean, I don't think he's played bad. When you look at his individual performances against receivers, he hasn't allowed a receiver to have over 100 yards against him at any point this year. So, I mean, he wasn't on Chase Claypool. He probably should have been. He was on him at times in that game, but he wasn't on Claypool the whole game in Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? Even though he probably should have been. He was on Juju Smith-Schuster, and Juju Smith-Schuster had like 2 or 3 catches that game. So I think Slay's played really, really well. Maybe we've, this is what we do as a Philadelphia fan base, right? And we expect too much out of guys. Well, why doesn't he have any interceptions? Why do you do it? I'm sorry that he's not Superman and he isn't Daryl Reeves in his prime, but I think Slay has been well worth the money that we paid him and well worth what we gave up in that trade.
What's up, Prism?
But outside of him and Brandon Graham, I agree with you. Him and Brandon Graham have been the only two guys.
So that we'll find out if today's a good day when this weekend ends.
I'm so confused by this, Prism. What is good about today? We're over here talking about the Eagles getting their asses kicked by the Browns tomorrow, and it's a good day.
Yeah, Don, that's a big negative, sir. I don't have us winning the division at this point in time. Not the way they're playing, unless you show me something over the next 5 weeks. Nah.
We might go two. We might have 2 wins the rest of the only 2 games we might win are the Washington game and the Dallas game.
Yeah, that's like I said. Unless you steal one this week or like maybe Arizona if you're lucky. I mean,
listen, dude. I'll buy you a steak dinner if we fucking win. If we win the Arizona game, you could come to Florida and I'll buy you a steak dinner. There's a Texas Roadhouse right across the street from my apartment. Okay. We are not winning the Arizona game.
Matt's over here.
Baker is Tom's son. Doesn't want to disappoint his dad, so he throws 2 interceptions and the Birds win 29. No. No.
Yeah, no. I don't see that either. But we'll see how that all winds up playing out when we get to that point. But I want to quick touch on the Sixers draft and trade moves that they made over the last handful of days before we get Vinny on here. Got to get your thoughts, man. A lot of things happened since the last time we sat here and had this conversation last week. We were talking about things that could be done. Now, with what we thought was going to happen and what has actually happened right now, are you just we're not even going to talk about the draft, just on the trades themselves to put themselves in a better position. What do you think on the getting rid of Al Horford, getting Josh Richardson out of here, bringing Seth Curry in? Obviously, the signing of Howard last night, this morning. However, whenever you guys heard that one, what are your thoughts on that one, my friend?
I think people are too excited about the Howard signing. I'll start there. Great, just what Joel Embiid needs: another lazy big man to be a lazy influence on his lazy ass. That's what we need. People are like, oh yeah, he'll teach Joel how to be a professional. I was like, what has ever been professional about Dwight Howard? Like, when has he ever been that guy? Like, this is the guy that Kobe Bryant called soft because, well, he's soft. I'm not going to hold my breath that Dwight's all of a sudden going to teach Joel how to be a killer. Like, I don't think that's going to happen.
Like, see, I'm being realistic about this. Like, listen, as long as he's able to spell Joel, not really lose too much of defense when he's off the floor, and
see, that's where Dwight might really come in. Like, you get Dwight on the floor, his defense is still elite. He can still be an elite defender around the rim, and that's something that every team needs, obviously. And I think him and Joel could play well offensively together too. If you wanted to get them both on the floor at the same time, they could play well offensively together. But everything that this team has done, I mean, getting rid of the Al Horford contract in itself is like, you wouldn't have had to do anything else, and you had a successful offseason. They freed up over $90 million in cap space by getting rid of Al Horford's contract. They brought in shooters. They needed to bring in guys that could shoot. Surround him. Surround Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid with guys that can shoot the basketball from the perimeter, so that way they don't have to. If Simmons has shooters around him, that's when he's a good player. When you put him in a position where he's got to be, he doesn't have any perimeter scorers, well, then he's going to struggle a little bit because teams know he's not going to shoot from the perimeter, and it becomes much easier to defend. But with guys like Seth Curry out there on the perimeter, I mean, Ben Simmons is going to be a guy, he's already averages 18, 8, and 8, right? I mean, he's going to eat inside because he's going to be able to find guys like Curry on the perimeter and be able to hit down, knock down open jump shots. It's going to open up everything else for this offense. There's a lot of things to like about all of these trades and the signings that we've made so far. You're just a lot better team than you were, a lot more depth, and the pieces fit a lot better. All of the pieces fit much better than they did.
Josh, nothing against Rich and class act on his way out of the city and all that stuff like that. It's just he wasn't the guy here. Like you're looking at this team and they're starting to look like the pieces you needed here. Anthony, I guess, has something to say here. Anthony, Dwight Howard got a free ride to a championship. A young Howard when he was a free agent when he was in Orlando, I would have taken him.
Yeah, like he was a superstar then. Yeah. He was a super. Like, I saw somebody yesterday said another big name signing. I was like, come on, like why? Because it's still Dwight Howard. What's big about Dwight Howard's name? The fact that we just know who Dwight Howard, like the fact that he used to be a great player, like there's nothing like that's not a big signing. Like, oh great, like we added some depth. Like whoop-de-doo.
I mean, I do like the trade for Richardson and bringing Seth Curry in here. That immensely improves our perimeter shooting.
They needed a guy like Curry that can knock down an open three or knock down threes in general with a quick release. The guy shoots over 45% from three for his career. Absolutely, that's a guy that helps this basketball team right away.
Now, here's the thing about it before we kind of move on to the other aspect of the offseason, which is the draft, obviously. But do you think that Morey's done? Do you think there's another big trade, or do you feel he's gonna kind of stay pat with what he's got and kind of pick the bone pile?
I could still see him trying to spin a trade for a guy like a Buddy Hield. That way, Buddy could start at shooting guard. You didn't have to have Seth Curry starting at shooting guard. I don't think Seth Curry's a starter in this. I think he's much better being a guy that comes off your bench and giving you 20 minutes off the bench and dropping 25 minutes off the bench and dropping 3 or 4 threes a game for you. So I think that would still be a good move, something like that coming in. But we talk that the Maxey, drafting Maxey is huge for this team because we talk about Simmons and how he's going to play the 1, but having Maxey is going to give you the ability to have Maxey, and it's going to give you the ability to have Maxey.
Lying, Anthony. Stop lying. Stop lying, brother.
No, tell me if I'm wrong though. With having Tyrese Maxey and then Simmons on the floor at the same time, what that gives you the ability to do is Simmons doesn't have to be the 1 at that point, right? Simmons can go and play the 4. Play the 3, be a little bit more of a point forward in that situation, and you get a lot more out of him because you have another guy that you trust to be able to run the point and can score a little bit from the point. And we love the fact that this kid's a hard worker, knocks down 2,000 jump shots a day, shit like that. Right? I mean, we love that shit in this city. So, I mean, I think that is going to be one of the most underrated moves of this offseason. To get a kid like that at 21, draft him at 21, I mean, he's such a perfect fit for this basketball team. You want to talk about, what he is? He's our new Jimmy Butler. That's what he's going to bring to this team. That fire, that bulldog mentality, that ability to try to light that fire under all of his teammates because it's contagious. When you play the game a certain way, play a game the way in the way that guys like that do, it's almost like it's impossible for your teammates around you to not, try to match your intensity, right?
Yes, Ted, absolutely. Can't be living off your family's freaking shine all the time.
But I think if anything, that's what it'll do for us. And we bitched about how much we miss Jimmy Butler because of the killer instinct that he gave us, and how we didn't really have a guy like that. Now you have a guy like that, and you have a young guy like that on a rookie contract. That if anything, if I'm excited about anything, it's the fact that somebody like him is going to come in here, and if a rookie comes in and immediately starts outworking guys that are supposed to be your veteran superstars and all that, guess what? That lights a fire under guys like that much quicker than anything else will. You can't have this young pup coming in here embarrassing us and putting us to shame and making us look bad. No. We got to get to his level. We all of a sudden we got to do something to make. We can't have this happening. And if anything, I'm excited about the idea of what could come about that. You get a kid like that with that type of work ethic and fire and competitiveness about him. And intensity about him. You get him into the same building as Simmons and Embiid, and we're worried about, getting those guys to kind of unlock that, mental side of them, that killer side of them that we need them, in order for them to take the next step. A guy like that can do that for you, guy like that. What do we think the odds are of the Sixers to try to get another dog to run the second team? I like Pat Beverly. Pat Beverly, see, that'd be another great set. Pat Beverly would be a great addition to this team. Played with Doc Rivers, obviously, in LA, and another guy, intensity, right? You talk about intensity? Yeah. You know what I would love to see is Pat Beverly get up in like a Ben Simmons face or something because he thought Ben was being fucking lazy or something, or he thought Ben could have given better effort, or, Joel got lazy or something. Somebody could have given better effort on a play, and somebody like Pat Beverly gets in their face and lights a fire under their ass. Guess what's going to happen if Pat Beverly gets in your face and tries to light a fire under your ass? You got two options. Either that fire's lit or you might get your ass kicked. Like, you ain't going to sit there and tell Pat Beverly to shut the fuck up, right? Like, you're going to respond when a teammate like that comes up and gets in your face.
It's rough. Yeah. I mean, like, it's one of those things where, like, he's going to have to be held accountable to put the work in at that point in time,
Well, and that's what's so great about a drafting like this, or signing a guy like Pat. Now Rivers can sit there and he can hold a guy like that accountable. Hey, you've got a teammate that takes 1,200 jumpers a day, 2,000 jump shots a day. You know what I mean? You have a chance to go work out with him every day and do that, but you choose not to. How come? You know what I mean? Like that type of shit. Yeah, it becomes easy to hold a guy accountable like that when there's other people around him that are working much harder. And it's very obvious that they're working harder and they have more intensity. I don't want to say working harder, but that competitive fire, that drive to get better and make yourself the best player you could possibly be. Like, that was clear in a guy like a Jimmy Butler, right? And he tried to do that with all of his teammates too. Like, he was going to try to motivate you to try to find that within yourself to become the best player you can. And then Butler walks because he realized, oh shit, like, these guys, like, they don't have that attitude and they don't have a coaching staff that's going to hold anybody accountable to make them match that, intensity that I have. So fuck it, I'm going to leave. But you've got a situation now where not only do you got a coaching staff that's going to hold people accountable in that way, but when you've got a couple teammates that, share those same, it's not just one guy, but it's a couple different guys that have that mindset. I'm telling you, that shit's contagious. It rubs off on guys. It's impossible for it not to.
And like I said, having him in the building, having some of these other guys in the building, you hope it kind of breeds some confidence into Ben. Like I said, we just need them to have to shoot it like 10, 15 times a game. I don't care if they land, they fall, how ugly his shot looks.
He needs, like, people talk about shooting threes. Like, forget about shooting threes. I mean, Rajon Rondo wasn't a good shooter, but at least have a mid-range game. Like, the dude needs to be able to extend out and knock down an 18-foot jump shot. Like, the fact that we've got stretch fours all over this league that can knock down 20-foot jump shots, and Ben Simmons can't do it. It's ridiculous. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That is, to the point where it's like there's no excuse for that outside of you just don't want to be that guy. Like, because if you wanted to be able to find that and unlock that part of your game, you could. You're talented enough. You could do it. There just hasn't been a person there to push you and give you the kick in the ass that's necessary to make you want to go do it. One of my favorite stories, we are, Dan Williamson, that was head coach at Doane Academy basketball, that we did play-by-play for him for his program. Me and Frank Vespies are graduate of there. We're both graduates of there. We did a play-by-play for them early on in our history with A2D. And he came to a seminar. He told me this story firsthand, and I've had his permission to use it. So I will, because I think it has a point to it. It gives you an idea of why things are where they're at with Ben Simmons. But he went to a seminar, a coaching seminar that Ben Simmons' high school coach was at, and was there, giving advice and all that. And obviously the question was asked to Ben Simmons' high school coach about, why doesn't Ben Simmons shoot the three ball? All these things, like, what is, like, you coached Ben in high school, like, he obviously super talented. Why hasn't he been able to, like, go and develop that part of his game and get it to a point where, he's got somewhat of a consistent jump shot? And the answer that his former high school basketball coach apparently gave was, listen, when we coached him in high school, he was a phenomenal talent, just exceptional player, but all he gave a fuck about was dunking the basketball and chasing bitches. That was all he cared about. And that was out of the mouth of his old high school basketball coach. Was all the guy gave a fuck about was dunking the ball and fucking pussy. That's all he wanted. That was all he was trying to do in high school. And now you see him in the NBA, and he's chasing Kardashian girls, or the Jenner girls, or whatever the fuck their names are. He's hooking up with members of the Kardashian family. That's never done anything but fucking killed the career. Right? That's never done any good for anybody's career, right? And he's hooking up with Kardashian girls, and he still hasn't shown the ability to do anything except want to dunk the basketball. So when his old high school coach says that, as much as you laugh at it, like, oh, what a funny story that is, it might have some, there could be some substance to that. Now, does that mean a guy like Doc Rivers can't be the person that finally finds the way to unlock that in Ben Simmons and be like, hey, grow the fuck up, mature a little bit and try to become the best player you can be? There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to be a guy that can drop 20, 25 a night, and be, considered a perennial all-star and a top 10 player in this league, instead of just being a good player and a guy that, has the potential to be so much more.
It is. That is probably the worst part about it.
He can actually shoot. He just doesn't. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. People are like, I don't think he can shoot. I disagree. I think the guy can shoot, but that comes to, like, if there's nobody that's going to make him shoot, and he could be a good player without shooting, and it's not something that he wants to do, well then fuck it. Why do it if nobody's going to make me do it and I don't want to do it?
Lazy and talented just sucks. Let's just to be fair, let's just say lazy and talented just sucks.
Lazy and talented, those guys can have good careers, but they never get the full potential out of themselves, right? Like, you always go back and you look at that guy's career, no matter how good of a career it was, and you're like, this guy could have been so much more. He could have been so much better, and he just wasn't. And like, it almost like, no matter how good their career is, like, if he would have retired, 20 years from now, Ben Simmons would have retired with career numbers of 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists the way that he does now, he would probably be a Hall of Famer. Like, the dude would be a Hall of Famer at the point guard position for averaging 18, 8, and 8. But all of us would still look at his career and go, man, what this guy could have been if he just decided that he wanted to be that guy, Like, this guy has the potential to be closer to LeBron James than maybe any player in basketball if he put in the work. And he just, now I'm okay with being the player that I am type of thing. And the player that he is an all-star and an all-defensive guy, and an all-NBA third-team member. So it's not like he's a bad player or a scrub, but obviously it's frustrating to think that a guy can be so much more than he is, and you have to watch him underachieve in your mind. You would love to see him finally have it click at some point and just, see him finally figure it all out and go, yeah, like, there's the guy that we always knew he could be. There's the guy that's averaging 25, 10, and 8 and in the MVP conversation. You know what I mean? Like, that's the step he has the ability to take. We just need to see it, right? He's an all-star right now. He has the ability to be an MVP. He can be an MVP.
Not just like he has the ability to be the face of the league, not just an MVP. He has that capability both on the floor and everything else.
He would be the face of this franchise. Like, he would be the guy that you're marketing Philadelphia basketball around, and they're still trying to do that. He's the guy that showed off the New Jersey and everything. But it's so much harder to do that with the guy when, like, it's so obvious to everybody in the building that, this guy is only as good as he wants to be, as opposed to as good as he can be. He's as good as he wants to be, not as good as he can be. At some point, you've got to get irritated with that, to the point as an organization where there's an ultimatum involved, isn't there? Like, doesn't it come to a point where you have to make that decision as an organization? Maybe that's why Doc Rivers is here. If Doc Rivers can't get that out of him, maybe nobody can. But I just feel like, I love Ben because obviously players like him can be generational talents.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm also not going to sit here and say it's justifiable to watch him play 15 years in Philadelphia and underachieve the whole time and never fully become the player that he had the ability to be, simply because we allowed him to only be as good as he wants, as opposed to forcing him, to be a better player, which I feel like is something we could do if you just had the right mindset around him. Kick him in the ass a little bit.
I'll say one thing, regardless, I like the direction. I was one to just blow it all up. I wanted to blow it all up this offseason. I was that pissed off at it. It's just, but
it's amazing. It's amazing how much could change that quickly.
With a coach and a guy in the front office just making things happen. It's crazy how things kind of work. And here's the thing: it's still early. We have to not to do the Philadelphia thing and anoint them anything yet.
No,
but it looks good. If you want to talk about on paper, I mean, you'd have to sit there and say Miami Sixers would probably be your favorites, who you'd like to see in the finals at this point in time.
Yeah, I think the Sixers are a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference, and I think they they're better suited. Like I said, I don't know if they're more talented. That's not the right discussion. But the pieces fit better with this team than last year's team, and I think the pieces even fit better with this team than they did the 2018 team that came within one shot or whatever of going to the NBA Finals. You know what I mean? Came within that Kawhi Leonard miracle shot. So I like the way the pieces fit, and I know we have a better head coach. And I think the one thing that we talked about the Seth Curry, how much he's going to help us as a shooter. One thing we didn't bring up that's been going around, obviously, he's Doc Rivers' son-in-law. He's married to Doc Rivers' daughter, and people can laugh about that all they want. I think that's a big deal. You bring in a guy, that all helps with chemistry, right? And you bring
not
in a
just
guy
that, he gets the guys like if they question something about Doc, but be like, yo, Seth, what do you think about? Like, you know what I mean? You have a you have that open dialogue, so it's like, hey, man, like, listen, he knows what he's doing.
You need to be talented. The pieces need to fit, and there also needs to be the right chemistry. It can't, all three have to be there. And I think the chemistry is something that was never there. I think one thing we saw under Brett Brown, there was no chemistry. And it was impossible for there to be chemistry because that all starts at the top. And like Brett Brown was just lost in that department. But what's the one thing we talked about with a Doc Rivers hiring is the minute Doc Rivers walks in the room, all that respect that gets demanded, like the minute he walks in the room, he has players' attention. Players respect him. He has their attention. They're going to be coachable. They're going to listen. All of those things. They're going to be okay with being held accountable by a guy like Doc Rivers. All of those things are important. And then on top of that, when you bring in players, that help with the chemistry side of things, you also, I think what that adds is a situation where you have players that are able to police themselves in a locker room. And I think that's really important too. The ability for players to look at one another and go, hey, you need to do this better. You need to do that better. I need to do this better. And nobody has any hard feelings over it. It's just something that's accepted as, hey, you know what? Yeah, let's go become a better basketball team. It might not be an easy conversation, but it's a conversation that needed to be had type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing.
I don't know if he's a player's coach. I just think he's the perfect combination of a guy that can give a kick in the ass, but a guy that also understands how to bring a family dynamic to a basketball team as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things. I think that I like the Rivers high. I like what Morey's done. I like the pick so far. We'll see how he plays out. A lot of people were surprised he fell to us. So let's see how that plays out. Like I said, man, we'll have to see what it looks like on the court. If it's really something that'll gel and become a team. Not just five guys on the floor. We watch these guys become a team. So
you know what I think is a good analogy for this, Stephen, and then we can move on. I think a good analogy for this is you're almost going from a guy in Brett Brown that everybody kind of viewed as the fun uncle. He was the fun uncle that you didn't really respect, but you had a good time with. You know what I mean? Whereas Doc Rivers is kind of the dad where you're like, hey, you can have a good time with him too, but he's also not going to be afraid to whip somebody's ass if he needs to. And some kids, some need a pat on the back, some need a kick in the ass, and some need a kick in the ass and a pat on the back at the same time.
Yeah, some of us you got to yell at us, scream at us to tell us you're an idiot at the same time. Be like, I still love you, bro.
And that's where a guy like Brett Brown had no idea what he's doing, and a guy like Doc Rivers is phenomenal. And I think little things like that are what was missing. It's not like we weren't a talented enough basketball team to take the next step. It was little things like this that were missing from this team.
They needed the complementary pieces to you already got your stallion, your stud sitting there on the roster. You got a nice compliment. And here's the thing: Tobias Harris needs to play ball this year. He can't be one of these guys. He disappears.
You talk about a guy that's going to benefit from Doc Rivers.
Yeah.
I think he's a guy that's a perfect example of somebody that's going to benefit from that relationship, with Doc Rivers. Like Doc knows how to get the most out of him, whether it be both physically, mentally, all that. Doc had just proven as a coach that he's had his best seasons under Doc. So that'd be one thing you'd like to think is definitely if he can get back to even anything close to that player that he was in LA for Doc Rivers, you still got a pretty good player on your hands there.
Absolutely. Like I said, I like how it all moves forward. Like I said, I think I have them a notch above where you have them as we're looking at this, from the outside looking in without even looking at the teams yet. I think right now, I think you would have to say the Sixers have won free agency offseason, so to speak, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I still think the Bucks are going to be really good and the Heat will be really good. But I think
I do think
the
they
Bucks,
will.
the Heat, and the Sixers.
I still think that at this point in time, the way the Sixers are constructed, that's a 5-game series, and we beat the brakes off of them. I'm sorry.
It would be nice to be
Giannis showed me a lot last year of how he likes to quit.
It would be nice to be the team. Well, Giannis wants out and he wants to go to a place like Miami or somewhere like that, where he's the perfect complementary piece for Jimmy Butler, because he's a guy that's a superstar and Jimmy Butler's
They win
your killer.
Free agency because LeBron's there. It's kind of it's redundant. You take them automatically out of
the Montrezl Harrell signing is a big signing for them.
I know. That definitely was. It was.
Montrezl Harrell's a guy I really wanted us to sign, and I thought we had a great chance of signing him because of the Doc Rivers connection. Montrezl Harrell would have been you talk about an attitude piece and intent, like he would have been you want to talk about a guy that can get something out of Joel Embiid. Montrezl Harrell would challenge Joel Embiid to get the most out of himself. Like, that's a guy I wanted to see us sign, if not for any other reason outside of that. Like, you want to talk about a guy that's not going to be afraid to stand up in a locker room
and they're not too far away either, Steve. I'm not counting Jimmy Butler and Spoelstra out of any.
I disagree with that. The Heat aren't close to winning at all. What? They were pretty damn close last year.
Yeah,
that's a silly statement.
I mean, they were two wins away, right? That's pretty close.
That's really silly. Tyler Hero has a chance to become an all-star. Like, if that kid takes a step forward for them, they're even better this year than they were a year ago.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man, it is what it is. You know how it is. Not sure what's happening with Vinny, and I just got a message from Mike. We didn't get the thumbs up, and I think he's turning it down. So we'll see if we can get the announcement out of Mike, maybe at a later date. Get him to come on. No big deal. We got plenty of stuff to talk about here.
How about the Gordon Hayward signing before we move on for basketball?
Yeah, man. And me and you were talking. Well, no, actually, I was talking to Johnny about this. But listen, that was big, man, and that's big for us because he's out of there. Boston. He's out of Boston. I mean, he's not like one of these guys that continually was a thorn in our side or anything like that.
No, but he was hurt there.
But he made them a good team, made them a better team, regardless
when
of
healthy. I
was just about to get into that. Yeah,
he's still a guy that can score you 20 a game. He can still average 20 a game.
And he still got $140 million out of Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean, well, 120 million. He went from making, people are like, why did he opt out? He was due to make 34 million. He's not going to get anything close to that. Now he's making 30 million a year in Charlotte. But you know what? I really like that signing for MJ. I think MJ is doing some good stuff with Charlotte. They finally have a little bit of a direction. When you look at them, Charlotte's got Rozier.
Considering coming into this season, Jordan up to this point as an owner, drafter, etc., has kind of been a laughing stock, so to speak.
Well, they've made the playoffs twice under him, but you know what's been a little bit rough for them? They had the worst record in basketball the year leading up to when Anthony Davis was the top pick.
The Hawks, and we can't forget about the Hawks. You're
Hawks
right.
Had a nice free agency, sure. They had a nice free agency.
Yeah.
But Charlotte has almost been snake bitten with MJ. They're like, they were so bad the year, they were going to have the top pick the year Anthony Davis was drafted by New Orleans. And instead of Charlotte won 7 games that year. And instead of Charlotte winning the draft lottery and getting Anthony Davis, they picked second and got Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, who, is Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. He wasn't going to be a star, just wasn't a good player. It's like almost like every single year they had a chance to get that draft pick that they needed. Like, they could have had the second pick this year and gotten James Wiseman, maybe changed their franchise. Instead, you get the third pick. I think Ball's still going to be a good player for them. Rozier obviously established himself as a guy that looks like he could be a future superstar. And then they bring in Hayward, who's already an established player in this league. They're probably in the best position that they've been in close to a decade. You know what I mean? Like, since MJ got there, at least finally they have some direction. I feel good for him. You know what I mean? It's like, it drives MJ crazy to have to lose and watch a team that sucks every fucking year. Well, I saw that signing today. I was like, that's a big time signing for them. Charlotte's not usually in on the big time free agents and shit. Like, that's a big time signing for them to convince Hayward to come there and be a big piece for them.
This is the same thing as us kind of scooping No, scooping Howard out of LA and everything
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
surrounded that.
obviously, we get Howard on a cheap deal, so that I mean, you get Howard for the veteran minimum, you can't complain too much.
You get him for the veteran minimum because the Lakers are a bunch of idiots and didn't know how to return messages. So hey,
Well,
I'll
I think
take.
part of that though. Look. They just signed Montrezl Harrell. You're telling me that part of that wasn't because they were trying to go get Montrezl Harrell. So if they realized they had a chance at Montrezl Harrell or Dwight Howard, which one would you rather sign? Of course, you're going to go get Harrell. Maybe that deal fell apart with Howard because they realized we're about to sign Montrezl Harrell. We'd rather have him. So fuck off.
Yeah, it's called pick up the phone, be professional. But hey, things happen.
We really don't give a fuck about you, Dwight. You can kick rocks with flip flops because we just don't give a fuck.
But as we get into the last half hour here, want to talk some combat sports here real quick. We're literally a week away from Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson at this point in time, and all the talking, all the dancing. We've seen a lot of Mike. I haven't really seen a whole lot of Roy's stuff on social media at this point in time. What are your thoughts on this exhibition that we're going to see next week?
How desperate are these two fuckers for money, man? This is like,
I don't think it's about desperation, man. Come on,
I think you know what it is. No, it's a midlife crisis sort of thing. They're both desperate. They're going the midlife crisis, but they both got to prove that they still got it. They're still in shape. I can still do this. I can still make it happen. I'm still a guy that people want to see and want to pay money to watch in the ring. Tyson. I mean, the dude looks like he's in the best shape he's been in a long time, but I mean, the people can make clips from sparring look as good as they want them to look. You know what I mean? Like, I
didn't even look at any sparring clips of Mike or anything like that yet. So I just seen the that picture they show you of how he's looking right now.
Did Gus D'Amato come? Like, did he come back from the dead and all of a sudden start training Tyson again? Because like Tyson's one of the most overrated heavyweight boxers we've ever seen. He was good and dominant with Gus D'Amato, and then as soon as that whole relationship ended, he fell apart, and his career was so bad that his most impressive win. How about this? Mike Tyson's most impressive win is against a guy named Trevor Berbick.
I don't know, man. Like we may differ on some opinions here. I mean, I listen. I don't act like he had like the creme de la creme of heavyweights.
I hear people that Mike Tyson the GOAT. Like Mike Tyson is the greatest of all time. Like Mike Tyson lost every big fight he was ever in. Like,
listen, Mike Tyson was the GOAT in the sense of he was probably the most entertaining and terrifying men on the planet during his run.
He's one of the most influential boxers of all time. That's different than saying he's one of the greatest.
No, that you're taking that away from Muhammad, man. Like, come on, man.
I think I've always said Muhammad's the greatest of all time, and part of it is because he is the most influential of all time. On top of that, though, Tyson had an impact on that was up there, with something very, very
why does someone always got to come at Zach? I have to let you know about this, man.
What happened?
Apparently, we need to get you to do some push-ups.
I bet you I can do more push-ups than you, Teddy.
But get into some more comments. Roy's gonna get that. Listen, I think Tyson got that for real.
Oh, well, Roy's gonna dance around the ring. Tyson's gonna miss completely. He's gonna struggle to hit him for fucking 10 rounds or whatever the hell they're fighting. And Roy Jones is gonna keep it close. But people are, Tyson will win because everybody wants to see Tyson win. So it'll be one of those, controversial decisions type.
Yeah,
of thing.
I think it's the Thriller is where it's gonna be. I think it should be able to be accessed on UFC Fight Pass. So anyone who is gonna be tuning in the fight, dude, please do. And oh man, he's coming back at you. Here we go. Why
Teddy, I'll whip your ass, bro. Like,
why are you here?
The skinniest dudes are always the dudes you don't want to fuck with. I don't even know why. Like, why all of a sudden is he coming at me? Like, the fuck is this dude even talking about?
Listen, why are we coming after Zach?
Okay, bro. Like, I'll choke your ass out. How about that, Teddy?
Like, I mean,
Jesus Christ.
I mean, I'm not. I mean, do I need to do push-ups too? Like, what's going on here? Is it just mess with Zach day? What the? Yeah, I mean,
I
here's
love it
another
because
point.
I'm
Yeah,
skinny, apparently.
you made the custom model thing, and here's another part of it. The Don King part of it.
Well, that's what happened. He went from Gus D'Amato to Don King. Like Gus D'Amato was just trying to handle all the promotions and all that, you know, and then he ended up going away from that whole relationship, and you know, yeah, he got hooked on cocaine and all that crazy shit. He was raping Desiree Washington or whatever, the fucking, you know, Miss Rhode Island or whatever the hell her name was. Desiree Washington was her name. That's when he got in trouble for raping her, and that's why he went to jail.
Prison, that's too much, bro. I don't know, man. Because it was almost not a thing, and then it was a thing.
Yeah, and then it was a thing, and then it wasn't a thing, and then it was a thing. Too.
It's also because of the exhibition. It's not a big pay-per-view. It's just, you know, it's supposed to be for fun, but, you know, I don't know who has a fun expedition boxing fight against Mike Tyson. You got these two dudes in there. Like, listen, you know, we already know they fighting. You said they're saying it's going to be a scorecard. I still think one of them gets stopped.
No.
That's just
there's no way one of them is not going to get stopped. There's too much pride involved with both of them. Like, there's just no way it's going to happen. Like it'll like.
I don't think there's no way they're not going to go after each other.
Well, Roy Jones Jr. was never really a guy. Like, Roy Jones was always more of a technical guy. Anyway, you know, he could hit you hard, but he was never a guy.
He's still running his mouth. Teddy, listen. You want to come and acting tough on Zach now? You're gonna have to get me involved. Listen, dude, I'm not in shape. He regardless if he's 110 pounds soaking wet, you're over here running your mouth on freaking YouTube like you're a tough guy, dude. If you really want to find out, we can go to a gym and we can find out really how tough you are. We can arrange that. I promise you. We can knock that down for you. You don't have to come on my show and sit there running your mouth about my co-host. So we're going to continue our conversation. You want to sit there and keep crying like a little girl, Teddy, please go ahead. Anyways.
I don't even know who Teddy is. This kid's funny.
He's in there talking about you look like you're on fentanyl, like he's a tough guy, dude. I really listen. Whatever, dude. He doesn't look like he's on fentanyl. I talked to him long enough. I promise you, he's not on any of that. Have a nice day.
I look like I'm on fentanyl.
Listen, I think we're going to go back to the things about social media that we don't like is people have gotten way too comfortable to saying reckless nonsense without getting punched in the mouth for it. That's the only thing I'm going to say about that one. But anyways, have fun, Teddy. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully, you know, you have a beer, relax, do whatever. I don't know what did Zachary do that offended you so much. What did he do that hurt you? Show
me where he hurt you. Show me where he hurt you.
Yo, he seriously left his number up in here, bro. I'm not even kidding.
Teddy, you got way too much time on your hands, bro. Way too much.
Teddy, man, you can find me. My profile's open. If it was really that deep, dude, we can go find some mats, and then I can show you how we strangle people for fun. I'm not going to try to kill you, I promise. When you turn blue and tap, I'll let you go. Anyways, back to real life. All right, Anthony Holyfield wants to. Yeah, he did say that. He said he needs to stop that.
If Holyfield won both of their fights, like, why would he want a third fight? Like, speaking of people who are desperate for money, like, this guy's just like, fight me a third time so I can, like, steal $50 million. Like, I don't even give a fuck if I get my ass kicked this time. I'd still be up 2-1 in our rivalry. I just need money.
Yeah, especially because you see those memes running around with him for the mask. Like, damn, Mike, I can't even put my mask on. People are reckless, man. But I mean, I think it's fun. Like, you know, Logan Paul's going to be on it. So, I mean, there's some fun things going on with that. So, I don't have anything against it. Like you're sitting there saying, like, thinking it's about. I don't think it's about money. I just think, you know, you want to see if you still got it. And these guys, you know, I think Roy had just retired within the last 2 years, as it was anyway. So
both over 50. Like,
it's a fight we probably should have seen 10 years ago.
It's just like, for anything, it's like a fight for nostalgia purposes. This is like the Big Three basketball league where you're like, I'm going to watch simply because Jason Williams is in here crossing dudes up again, and I miss watching White Chocolate do that to people. Like, like it's almost like it's just like I'm watching it because I miss watching. Like, oh yeah, remember when Mike Tyson was awesome like 30 years ago? Yeah. Like, well, he's fighting again. Like, yeah, but he's not like 25 years old anymore. Like he's
Yeah.
like this like I get it. Like, oh, it's great to see him step back in the ring, but I feel like we're gonna go pay whatever money it is to go watch this, and like it's just gonna be such a disappointment that you're just like, why'd I waste money
I
on
don't
this?
think we're gonna. That's what we're gonna get. I don't.
Like I look at this as something where you're like,
And this is why I've been sitting there saying that one of them is gonna get stopped. This is why I sent it. Like listen, I seen Roy fight. He was doing that whole thing with Bobby Gunn. It was here in Delaware. I think it was like 3-4 years ago, and it looked a shade of himself. Like I don't know if he was just like holding him up, whatever. If he was playing with him, that your guess is as good as mine.
Tyson hasn't fought in over a decade too. Like we're acting like Tyson's just going to step in and all of a sudden be going peekaboo style defense like he's 1985 prime Mike Tyson and like laying people out like he did in the Marvis Frazier fight and shit. Like it's not the 1980s Tyson. Like,
oh, I know, and people do need to understand that. Like you're not.
But see, no, he's not. Like, see, that's what I'm saying. Like. As the other dude said, like Tyson was a good boxer early in his career for like 5 years, and then as soon as he left Customado and ended up with Don King, he wasn't a good boxer. He was like Tyson made a career off being Mike Tyson, being the intimidator, being the guy that the name and all that.
Yeah, but also it also probably had to do with Kev leaving too.
Sure, it all had to do with a lot, and the fact that he got hooked on drugs and all that shit. Sure. It all had to do with
I'm not. Listen, I don't want to concentrate who he was. Listen, like.
Well, why do I think at 55 years old or 60 years old, the guy's all like, you know what I mean? Like we're sitting here getting way too hyped up for this. Like we are.
I think he's making fun of little Teddy Prism. Oh man!
I've never seen people. Hold on, I'll just put it like this, Stephen. I've never seen more people. I've never seen people so fired up to watch a couple of 60-year-olds beat the shit out of each other. Never. Like I've never seen people more fired up.
If this is not 2020 in a nutshell, bro, come on. I don't have listen. What is wrong with it? Like we've seen so many super fights with guys.
What's wrong with it? I'm just like the hype surrounding it.
I don't actually think there's a whole lot of hype surrounding it.
I've heard a lot of hype, at least from people that are super into boxing. There's a lot of hype. Now, maybe that says more about how bad of like the boxing scene is right now that people are getting.
Now that's probably more of a conversation we need to have because like it's one of those things. Like when you look at it, like you have all these stars, and then you sit there and say, like you have these stars and these great fighters in the making, and what happens? You never see them.
Better. Hold on. I like Prism's idea better. If we're going to do this, let's just put it, and we're going to have a 90s retro night. We're going to have Tyson fighting Roy Jones. Holyfield's going to fight Lennox Lewis. Oscar De La Hoya is going to strap him up and fight against fucking Felix Trinidad again. Okay. Like we're going to fucking take it straight back to all the big fights in the 90s, and we're going to go back at it like toe to toe. Like dial them up one more time. Like it's 90s.
Well, if we're doing that, we'd have to have some Camacho, some all kinds of stuff. Oh wait,
Hector Macho Camacho.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of which, Vinny's here.
There we go.
Vinny's here. So all right, we're
see what Vinny thinks of all this. I want to get Vinny's opinion on this.
All right, well we're gonna bring him in here. Here it is. He finally made it to us. Vinny.
How are you, man? My man, how are you?
How you doing, my man? How you feeling?
All right, I'm going to lower this radio down.
All right.
Hold on. All right, radio off. Let me see. I can uncover the belts.
You got some belts to show off for us?
Just a couple. Could have been worse. Could have been worse.
Hey, you still made it, brother. That's all that matters.
Let me put a light on. Cool view.
Hey, there you go. You got his belts. He's got bleed for this, all that.
Cool. Kid.
Hey, there you go, brother.
All right. So what's going on with you guys?
Not much. We were just talking about Roy and Mike's gonna be fighting here next week. Want to kind of get your thoughts on it. You know, some people love it. Some people are thinking it's like a nostalgia thing. What are your thoughts on the fight and how do you see it playing, bro?
Well, you know what I've been telling people, because everybody asks me about it, and I just tell them I think Roy Jones is going to win unless Mike Tyson knocks him out. Simple as that. That's how I think it's going to go down.
I'm with you there.
Roy Jones wins unless Tyson knocks him out.
Yes,
I think it's fair.
That's what I think. And it's going to be fun. That's one thing I can promise you. It's going to be a little fun.
I think that's where the nostalgia thing comes into it for people, right? Like, no matter what, like, these two dudes could get in there and be dying by round 5, like just completely out of gas, and we could all sit there and know it's just these dudes are old and out of shape, but we're still going to enjoy, what it is just because it's them.
That is true.
I mean, I just think it's one of these things where, I mean, it's a fun fight. I agree with you. I think it's one of these things. If Mike catches him, that's it. But if he's not able to put that big right hand on him, I think Roy's going to point him.
Just what I said. You say it the same way as I do, and you see it that way. But think about it. It's going to be, I think, 16 minutes, 8 rounds, 8 2-minute rounds.
Okay.
And in the beginning, it's going to be not that easy to not get hit one time by Mike Tyson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's only going to take one punch.
So you still think Mike has that power? Like, you still think even at his age,
it's still there. It's still there.
Like all the things you've been like, because one of my questions I had for Steven, I said, especially with the way videos and all that work now, like they could take, him sparring and him training and make that video look as good as they want it to look.
That's true. Yeah.
How much of that, can he sustain that for a full 2-minute round? Or is that just something that you're going to see him do for a 10-second clip like we saw? Like, I think for me, that's where I'm at. Like, can Tyson sustain that for 2-3 rounds at a time? Or is it going to have to, die out real quick?
That's a good one. And you're dead on the money. Right. Correct with that analysis. But he's going to be in shape because he knows Roy Jones can fight. Roy Jones beat a couple of real good guys. He beat a dude by the name of, and he's a good kid. I like him a lot. He's from Puerto Rico. He's not too far from where I live. In Boston, he's from. The Spanish dude that he beat. Come on, work with me, guys.
I'm gonna have to help you out here.
I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna go on Google.
Roy Jones beat him easy, and that dude that I'm talking about, what's his name? Gee, I said it yesterday. The dude that he beat easily beat Evander Holyfield twice.
Really?
Yeah, and Roy Jones beat him easily. Like, when I say easily, and this dude can fight. John Ruiz.
Oh, Ruiz, yeah, big Ruiz, right?
Yes. So, I mean, facts don't lie. That dude beat Evander Holyfield twice, so he could fight. Roy Jones played with him, beat him on the decision, like it was nothing. Like, and the whole fight, I'm just shaking my head, going, "I'm such an idiot, such an idiot." I wanted to fight this guy, that heavyweight champ of the world. I'm like 5'7" on a good hair day.
Oh man, like I said, I'm sure like with a lot of the things you see going on in the combat sports world now, and I see your PR lady going nuts on social media, telling people stop. Vinny's not fighting, leave him alone. Stop reaching out to him.
Yeah. The only reason why I probably would have killed myself too, because you know how I go. I go all in or I don't go all. So I probably would have died of a heart attack. So thank God Zena told me, Vinny, no, you're not. And I said, yes, I am. He said, no, you're not, Vinny. I said, okay, honey. Okay. You're way smarter than I am, so I'm listening to you.
Now, you have a lot of things going on. You know, you had the induction over the last few years here too. What else are the things that you're getting into that's keeping you busy right now? Like, I know she said you guys got some things going on you can't really say too much about, but can you give us any peeks on what we can see you get involved in over the next year or so?
I got a huge, it's going to be fabulous. I'm so excited about it. I got a huge documentary coming out called The Greatest Comeback in the History of Sports.
There you go. Is it going to be like kind of
like better than that.
Is it going to be kind of like how like The Last Dance was, where you break it up over like a series over season, or is it just going to be a straight documentary?
Well, I would think that mine, it's going to be a little different than others. The guy that's filming it is just off the hook. I mean, I've been on TV since I've been 18 years old, you know, fighting. And literally, I was on the ABC Wide World of Sports. I was 18 when I won an amateur tournament as lightweight. And, you know, I've been on TV since then, forever. And this guy's footage is... Can you swear on this radio station?
Hey, man, let it fly, brother. Let it fly.
This guy does his stuff fucking incredible. It's absolutely fucking fantastic the way he does. Peter Inachili. Oh my God! Like, it's just amazing. You guys gonna love it. When you see it, you're gonna think, oh my God, Vinny Paz was right. This is really some great stuff.
Yeah, man. Like when I got the care package back from you and the DVD was in it, my kid immediately stole it, took it in his room, started watching it. He didn't even know what was going on. I was cracking up. He was sitting there having a ball with it. So
that's Headstrong's really good.
Yeah.
Right, that's a good DVD.
Yeah, it definitely was. That was pretty cool, man. I got to see some stuff that I hadn't been able to see since I was younger. It's hard to find some of that footage of some of that stuff. So when you're able to find it, it's like, oh,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Definitely appreciate that. For some people that don't know, I got a little something signed here that we're gonna be giving away here sometime over the holidays. Vinny sent us, a glove. We got some signed photos here and stuff like that. So we're gonna have some fun giving some stuff away over the holiday season for our A2D listeners. So big thanks for you for giving us that, my friend.
All right, so I got to tell you a little something else. I'm not supposed to tell you this, but I like you guys, so I'm gonna get the cat out of the bag.
All
right. You know Tyson Jones fight?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. Christy Martin, Chad Dawson, and who's the last guy? Oh, Vinny Paz. The guy Vinny Paz. Those three people are going to be judging the fight.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, pretty cool.
There you go.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And
yeah, I mean, I think they just said. Didn't they say Israel Zidane is going to be one of the commentators for that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And Zena told me not to tell you, just to tell you a little bit, not too much. So
I did, Zena. He did it, Zena. I didn't do it.
Hey, I love it, Steven. Like I said, we're gonna have some breaking news talk, possible breaking news talk tonight on A2D. There it is.
Hey, he's gonna be judging it. There you go.
Breaking news. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's going to be done via broadcast. I'll be in a stage in NBC 10 in Providence, Rhode Island,
Oh, there you go.
watching on the big screen and tallying the score.
Now that's going to be kind of a unique experience because you guys have kind of like connections like loosely throughout the years, and now you're going to be judging one of his fights.
Absolutely, yeah. It'll be pretty cool. I'm not sure what the percentage is of. I don't see going distance, but Roy, people underestimate Roy. No, I mean, and they always have. He's quite incredible. Tyson was unbelievable. The one of the biggest punches of all times. But I think Roy Jones lived like a little better than Mike. Mike's a wild man.
Yeah, literally is what me and Zach were talking about beforehand. Like he that kind of was his downfall of his career and that middle part of his life.
He kind of killed his own career in some ways by poor personal decisions, the drug use and the letting everything in his personal life get out of hand the way it did, things like that.
But he is a fun guy.
Well,
that does make him
in the top 10
guy.
list of guys I want to have a beer with.
Oh, absolutely.
Totally. Yes.
Now, actually, we have a question from one of our listeners on YouTube. He's like, Vinny, in your professional opinion, what two retired boxers would put the best boxing match on that would be worth a pay-per-view buy? So puts his promoter hat. You could pick any two retired boxers from list of people to put a fight on and make a pay-per-view. Who would you put together?
Are you just asking for like any two fighters that
any two fighters? It doesn't have to be weight class or anything. Just any two fighters.
I'd like to see, and this one I would not listen to Zena. This one I'm coming out of the corner. I would like to see Vinny Paz, Greg Haugen for Paz Haugen for it all. I would love to smash that little monkey's face. I'd rip him apart. And it's got to be an MMA show. It's not going to be a boxing match.
he's like, I'm going to be a wild man. He's like, I'm being a wild man.
I want him in the cage. I want that dude in the cage. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hey, man.
That'd be a good one. But, I really like. I mean, the big guy Tyson Fury. He is what he is.
We already know what he is, Ben. Leave him be, man. Leave him be.
Yeah, exactly. I've met a couple of times, and when I tell you Dante Wilder is the nicest guy you ever want to meet, he's such a gentleman. He's just a real good human being. He is. He really is a great guy. I would love to see him beat Tyson Fury.
I think we'll eventually see that match again, man. I think it's just a matter of time when we'll see it, man.
I hope we do, and I hope he gets.
I think it's something. I think regardless of all the talk and everything is like that. I think when some of this stuff starts to normalize and everything goes back to normal, I think that's probably one of the big boxing matches we will see.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be a big one when it happens, and it'll happen sooner or later.
It will, man. You know how boxing is, Vinny. Sometimes you just gotta wait your time, and then the kind of matchups happen that way. But it's kind of the dirty side of boxing we don't like to talk about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
But Vin, I want to appreciate for your time, man. I want that we're gonna get ready to get off of here as we're getting ready to end tonight's show. Anything you want to say before we let you go? Anyone you would like to give a shout out to? Anyone give some love to? The time is yours, my friend.
I love Dana White. I love Joe Rogan. I love my Zena to death. She's the bomb. But Haugen, if you're watching,
He wants Bernard.
Ray Haugen, watching this, you little twat. Get in the ring with me. You maggot.
Oh, man. I love you, Vinny. I love you, Vinny. Vinny, man, you enjoy the rest of your afternoon. We'll catch up again. Let us know when the documentary gets a little bit more situated, and we'll have you back on to talk some more boxing.
Absolutely. I'd love to. You guys are the bomb. Peace and love.
All right, Vinny, you have a good one. All right, everyone. That was the Pazmanian devil himself, Mr. Vinny Paz. Never short on throwing us a little fire right before we get off of here. Obviously, Prism got him going with his question. Who he would like to get in there with. Obviously, if he put a pay-per-view together, that he would like to get in there with Bernard Hopkins, and woof, that's just a ball of energy right there, then too. So that would definitely.
Mayweather De La Hoya 2.
Yeah, I mean, Mayweather De La Hoya 2 would definitely be interesting, but I mean, are we talking about De La Hoya when he was in his prime, or are we talking about some of the nonsense that we've been seeing on the late?
They would just do it now at like 50 years old or whatever the fuck they are, 25, whatever. If I could go back and get a prime Oscar De La Hoya, you know what I would really like? I think would be an awesome boxing match. If you had a prime Oscar De La Hoya against a prime Gennady Golovkin, I really think that would be a lot of fun to watch. The two of them in their prime, like 90s De La Hoya and this generation's Golovkin, if you would have squared them
Anthony, like if you got to think of dude, Vinny went through a lot of tough names in his, when he was fighting down I think he was fighting down all the way down at 40, wasn't he? And then when everything said and done, as he went up, it went all the way up to we had the big fight with the Hands of Stone, and obviously he'd gone through a lot of things. I think he'd gone up 3-4 weight classes at that point in time. So listen. I know they were stacked. Vinny's still a 5-time champion, one of the more well-respected boxers of his era. Everything that man went through, he's a living legend for multiple reasons, man. He's a walking story in itself. And like I said, we'll have Vinny back on here at some point in time in the future. Like I said, once he gets that documentary lined up, definitely would be fun to get him back on there and have some more fun with him. Obviously, like I said, if he were to get back up and to nix his manager's wishes, he would want Bernard Hopkins. That's interesting. But also, again, we didn't get the breaking news we wanted to today, but Vinny still helped us out. Obviously he's going to be one of the guys judging the Tyson fight is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. It is really cool.
Not we don't all get those chances, and obviously him being who he is, I guess, is one of the reasons why he's there. But yeah, absolutely, man. Sugar Ray's one of them guys. Absolutely, you can't.
Sugar Ray's a complete legend,
and in many stages and for many reasons, Sugar, me and you were talking about this, I think a lot of the reasons why you see more people kind of excited about MMA fights than you see boxing fights is just because there's no characters, you don't see promoters developing, you don't have the character of people that we used to have for whatever reason that is when it comes to combat sports, and for whatever reason they tend to kind of lean towards MMA over boxing. Don't know why that is, considering boxing was the combat sport for the better part of the last 80 years. So
here you go, Anthony. We're gonna have Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler too. Long anticipated rematch.
Yeah, man. But
Marvin Hagler disappeared into he just was he was so beside himself when he lost to Sugar Ray Leonard. You'd never heard anything from him again. The guy was like, I'm done. Peace. See ya. I'm out. Fuck this. Don't want to be heard from. Don't want to be bothered.
But why is that, Anthony? That has nothing to do because no one wants to step up. It has to do the promoters are being absolutely reckless. They have stars they won't promote. I mean, look what they do to the women boxers. you have Clarissa Shields there, and she's what, a 2-time Olympic world champion. Let's not even take what she's done inside the ring as a professional. She's a 2-time Olympic world champion. Why is she not the face of everything? Did I miss something?
I think part of the thing with Anthony, that to that point, you see, like, there's a reason why Floyd Mayweather created his own promotions company. There's a reason Oscar De La Hoya created his own promotions company. Same thing with Pacquiao and all these big guys. Really, like, you're better off marketing yourself nowadays as a big time superstar in a sport like pro boxing.
Well, I mean, dude, it is not even like I'm not like one of these guys like Vinny who loves Dana. I love him, but I also know there's a lot of things I don't like about Dana. But also,
Dana at least markets his stars.
But he ain't wrong when he says Bob Arum's a piece of work, because Bob Arum is a piece of work.
Well, like, that's what I was saying. Bob Arum's a great point. That's the name I was trying to think of. Like, Bob Arum's one of the top promoters in boxing.
You brought it up. I knew someone was going to bring it up. The whole Tito Ortiz thing. Remember that one? Well, that's not going to happen now because Tito's an elected official.
Tito Ortiz, get him back in the octagon.
Tito Ortiz is an elected official. Have fun getting him in the octagon.
How about you get Chuck Liddell and him back in the octagon?
They already did that. Please don't. Leave my man alone. Chuck has taken enough abuse to that chin. He can't take no more. Leave the Iceman alone.
You got to get BJ Penn, and who is BJ Penn's biggest rival?
Matt Hughes. Come on.
Who's the guy I'm thinking of outside of Matt Hughes? Did he fight somebody like 4 or 5 times? Including, he fought somebody for the final time on The Ultimate Fighter like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. It was like their 4th fight or something. They're both OG legends. Who the fuck is BJ Penn? I know the other guy too, and I can't think of his name right now. But
no, you about to make me pull up BJ's thing just because now. BJ Penn. He did not fight anyone more than twice.
Look at his final career fight.
His final career fight. I don't want to look at that. That was terrible.
Wasn't that the one that was on The Ultimate Fighter? It was the main event of The Ultimate Fighter because he wanted one more chance at the guy, his big-time rival. Maybe it was Hughes he fought. I can't remember now, but I didn't think it was Hughes at the time.
His last fight was Clay Guida.
Oh, well, maybe go back to his.
He got submitted by Ryan Hall. Then he lost to Dennis Seaver. Then he lost to Yuri Rodriguez. Then he lost to Frankie Edgar. Then he lost to Rory McDonald. He was on a quite impressive losing streak before he retired, by the way.
That's why it was driving me crazy, because Frankie Edgar's another. Frankie Edgar's the name I was thinking of. Him and BJ Penn had a little bit of a rivalry for a while, didn't they?
But Frankie was just a better fighter.
You think Frankie's just better?
Well, it was just he got to the point where like all right, you can't use your jiu-jitsu in your boxing, and you have a guy who's a little bit faster, a little bit stronger, has a really good wrestling pedigree, so you can't submit him. You have these things where you just have 2 chess pieces that are just too evenly matched, and that's why we got to see them go at it a few times.
Zab Judah versus Prime. Felix Trinidad would have whooped that ass. Felix Trinidad was no joke.
Nah, that was a rivalry, which didn't need to be a rivalry.
Tito Ortiz versus Ken Shamrock?
Yeah, that wasn't a rivalry.
Ken Shamrock.
Yeah,
wait, why were those two even fighting?
Listen, man, you push the right buttons on people, and you know how to push the right buttons on people. That's the response you're going to get out of people, I promise you.
Who's more of a legend, Ken Shamrock or Frank Shamrock?
Frank was the better fighter. I'm sorry, and I like Ken a lot.
But Ken Shamrock has the professional wrestling background to go with it too. Like, he was an all around just entertainer when it came to being a pro fighter. So Frank was the better fighter, but Ken was the better promoter and entertainer. Man.
So I guess I'm getting messages from Vinny's PR lady from Xena, and she's like, "No, he wasn't supposed to say that." I'm sorry, Z. I didn't make him say it. It wasn't.
Yeah, we didn't press the issue. He just told us like, "Hey, I got some breaking news. I'm going to roll with. We're going to do it here." We're like, "Okay, go." Like, we like breaking news. Like, it was.
I help in one area to keep him away from one area, then he goes and blows off another one. I didn't do it. I don't tell you. Jens Pulver was the guy. Yeah, Jens Pulver. That was BJ's rivalry, because at that point in time, that's probably what you're thinking about. Is because when they did that season of The Ultimate Fighter, Jens was the only one that kind of really beat him at that time. I think it was the comeback season that they were doing, and
probably.
Yeah, that's probably what you were thinking, because Jens was one of the guys. He was Little Evil was one of those guys who beat BJ in the early days. So when the UFC was really taking off, it was just like they wanted to rehash that, and that probably was Thanks, Dynasty here. What is it, Dynasty or Dynasty? And my eyesight's going bad.
It happens with old age, Steven.
Don't remind me.
Your hair, your eyes.
Don't remind me. Just like I said, I do not have a birthday next week. Do not send me birthday wishes, and leave me alone, people.
I'm going to be sending you cakes, all types of shit.
But as we get ready to wrap it up, big thanks to Vinny for hopping on. We're gonna get Mike on here. Hopefully, we'll be allowed to break this breaking news this time. That's one of the reasons why he didn't want to come on, because he knew
we won't get in trouble for it.
Well, that's why he's not on, because he didn't want to get in trouble for it, because he knew he was going to talk about it. So,
Mike, you're a grown man.
Anthony, brother, me and you need to talk privately. No, there's nothing to watch there, bro. I promise you. Okay, I promise you, there ain't nothing to see there. It's just a brutal butt whooping. And I love BJ. Don't get me wrong. BJ was one of my guys in the early days, but there's nothing there. It's been beaten out of him. Did I not just list off the names of people he was on an impressive losing streak? You want to see that? Why? Why don't you like BJ? What did he do to you?
John Jones and Khabib. I mean, it's headed. It seems like it might get to that point, doesn't it? You think we'll get to that point? You think Khabib will come back out and fight John Jones?
No.
No?
There's nothing for they're in completely different weight classes. Khabib's 155 pounder. John Jones fighting 205.
I thought they were rumored to fight. I thought
they get put together because everyone's in there saying that these are two of the greatest pound for pound fighters that we have in the world right now. And They were trying to sit there saying Khabib was the GOAT. Khabib has had 5 title defenses, where John Jones has 15 title defenses. I love Khabib. John has a lot of dark history in his past, but sorry, he's still the GOAT. Have a nice day.
Okay. I mean, John Jones is my favorite MMA fighter ever.
Now this is madness. Now, this is going on the line of madness, like Vinny was talking about, with being in a cage and not being in a ring. That's what this is right here. This would be pure madness. And if you got Mike in his prime and Brock in his prime to see that, if we had a time in a perfect world, we manipulated time and found time travel. We get crazy Mike Tyson to see Brock Lesnar, who he was about 10 years ago, and put them in a cage to see them fight. I'm absolutely with you on that, brother. Sign me up. Get the popcorn ready, keg of beer, the whole 9.
Lesnar would have choked his ass out.
That's not even a question, Prism. Guys, what is going on?
More of a legend.
What is going on with you guys
tonight?
Who
the fuck is Frank Stallone? Who the fuck is that?
You don't know who Frank is? It's Sylvester's brother.
Well, I mean, that's what I said. Who the fuck is he?
All right, this is going off the rails, guys. Come on, we gotta bring this one back in. We gotta bring this one back in, guys.
Who's more of a legend, Prism 280 or the clown that was over here trying to challenge me to a fucking fight, saying that I was on heroin? Who's more of an HUD legend at this point?
All right. Again, guys, thanks for tuning in this evening. It was another fun one. Like I said, we'll get Mike back on here. Appreciate Vinny for the time. Z, I'm sorry I did it. Appreciate Zach for hopping on here. We got another fun one lined up for you next week. Gonna have another guest maybe
Oh, it's
two,
going
I
to
don't
be
know.
cool. Next week, Steven, I'm going to be live at the pool. We're going to be out here. We're going to be at my parents' house in Melbourne. I'm going to have the sun shining in, the pool right there. We're going to make everybody jealous back in Philly. Y'all are going to hate me next week.
Anyone who would like to egg Zach, please let me know. I will gladly distribute that information for you guys. I promise.
My parents own guns. Do not show up at their house uninvited.
Prism, bro. That just yeah.
That's already Steven.
I've already that's the time had already come and gone, bro. So like I haven't gotten to where you're at yet. Just leave me be. It's bad enough I'm gonna be 40. You're always sitting there talking, telling me about this other stuff I really don't care to know right yet.
The hair disappeared from his head and showed up on his ass, right, Steven?
Pretty much. Oh man. Other than that, guys, another fun one. We'll see you. It'll be the 28th at that point in time.
It will be.
Yeah, it'll be the 28th. So the day after my birthday, guys. Again, don't blow my. Hey, you want to do something for my birthday? Go buy something from A2D. Go subscribe. Go show us some love because we're doing a lot of fun things here. But
I'm going to have a birthday cake with candles and all next week. Live on the air, we're singing happy birthday to Steven. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. Whether he likes it or not, it's happening.
Again, me and you need to talk, brother. I'm going to get you learned up, promise you. Gracie and Khabib. What are we talking about here? Anthony, I'm going to get you caught up, I promise you, because we're going to get some more combat sports here coming on A2D. We're going to get you learned up. I promise you, we're going to get you caught up there. And other than that, again, obviously, showing Philly Drinker some loves. It's down there. Make sure you're getting your gear. Obviously, you got the weekly roundup tees. I want to see some more of them flying around. Like I said, we're going to be doing some giveaways. Make sure you guys are subscribing. Make sure you're tuning into the programs. Make sure you're showing us love on social media. And we're going to be doing something. Like I said, we'll have like a little Santa sack or something. Like I said, I got some stuff from Vinny. Got some stuff for some Philly athletes coming in. And I actually got something from a former NFL quarterback who was not Philadelphia related that we're going to be bringing on here at some point in time during the playoff run for football here. We'll see how that one all goes and plays out. What happened?
I was just laughing at the fact that you said playoff run and had Eagles conversation. Eagles and playoff run in the same conversation.
Anthony, yeah. I mean, if that's what you want to do, I can't.
All right, listen, I'm not trying to piss his girl off too much now. Like, it's,
right.
Can't have my man, he needs to be safe. I can't be worried about his personal safety. But.
Yeah, exactly. But again, make sure you guys are showing us some love. Again, giving us the support here from all the shows, all the new programming that's coming, everything. Again, like I said, we got a lot of fun stuff lined up for us, for the rest of A2D, for the rest of the year. Like I said, I got some stuff for you guys, and again, the last one before we get out of here is make sure you guys are showing love to Ambuck Services. That's AMBUCK Services. Call Michael Ambrose. Tell him A2D sent you. That's 20% off gutter guards, anything around your house. AmbuckServices.com. Other than that, we shall see you guys next week. Thanks for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.